Immortal Cultivation begins with time management. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyright or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 526 Luoyan, prepare to survive the tribulation. There is no need to elaborate on the matter of the tribulation. The last golden tribulation thunder fell, and Sisterin activated the Phaon sword, breaking it directly like lightning. The Shushan monks who were watching were all dumbfounded. So, it was over. Since they chose to cross the tribulation in Lidenping, Shushan, it was naturally impossible to hide it from the public. As Sisterin began to cross the tribulation, many Shushan sword immortals heard the news and rushed to watch the famous grass-cutting sword immortal form the elixir. Ling Yunpo's foresight was verified again. Because the four great sword immortals Julanzan and Hegai, Sui Pun were present at the same time, the audience was very quiet. Even some people who had grudges against King Luopik or had a grudge with Mzisu in the past only silently cursed the other party to be struck to death by the tribulation thunder in their hearts, and did not dare to vent their malice in public. Although according to the rules of Shushan, obstructing the formation of elixir of fellow disciples is a serious crime, if there is no one present to deter them, some people may think that the law does not punish the masses, and take risks to incite the masses. Thanks to the presence of the four great Shushan warriors, there were no complications. As for Nzisu's tribulation, it was unexpectedly smooth. The dividing cloud vacuous step was too strong, and the short distance movement was too flexible, so the tribulation thunder had to change direction repeatedly and chase her around. In addition, Ling Yunpo lent his 1,000 pine and 10,000 bamboo sword to his senior sister. With the massive sword energy stimulated by this sword and Nzisu's natural sword heart calculating the sword moves, several waves of tribulation thunder were quickly swept away. Of course, the main reason was that the five-element tribulation thunder was too weak this time, and it was not Nzisu's opponent at all. As more and more Shushan sword immortals watched, Suma Jin and Zenran realized that the tribulation that this mowing sword immortal was going through was not the strength of a third-grade golden elixir. Could it be a second-grade golden elixir? When the tribulation finally ended, Nzisu sat down and began to assist the inner demon. Now everyone can finally confirm that being able to encounter a demon in the condensed pill tribulation is definitely a second-grade golden elixir tribulation. The sword immortal who cut grass has formed a golden elixir. And it is a second-grade golden elixir. The news spread quickly. When it reached the head of Yuzhing, he was talking to the long-browed immortal at the bottom of the demon-locking tower. Oh, Su Jian's daughter has also formed a second-grade golden elixir. The long-browed immortal said quietly without changing his expression. Since Nzisu was also a second-grade golden elixir, her potential may not be inferior to Su Jian. The head of Yuzhing said implicitly. To be fair, although he did not like the fact that King Luopik had so many talents and posed a threat to his town lineage, it would be a complete idiotic act to say that he wanted to kill them all. What good is a second-grade golden elixir? The long-browed immortal said coldly. A steady Luoyan was also seized by his inner demon and lost his soul. A genius like Kisha was ambushed by the demon monks and died in seclusion. No matter how solid the foundation of Taoism is or how talented one is in Taoism, if one's heart is not right, he will inevitably fall halfway. The so-called emotional flow simply adds useless constraints to the heart of Taoism. As the immortal who guards the sect, I have the obligation to pull these two people back from the wrong path. The head of Yuzhing listened silently and sighed in his heart. The outside world said that the sword immortal of Shushan was stubborn and easy to get stuck in a dead end. There is really no way to refute it. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. Even the immortal who guards the sect is so stubborn, how can we expect the disciples to be flexible? Nzisu's formation of the second-grade golden elixir not only failed to change Chanmei Immortal's mind, but also made him more determined to correct the two people. It can be said that he was self-defeating. Then, may I ask the immortal? The head of Yuzhing asked calmly, if these two people do not repent, should the immortal kill Nzisu to warn Ling Yunpo, or kill Ling Yunpo to warn Nzisu? This question directly silenced Chanmei Immortal. One was born with sword bones, and the other was born with sword heart. Both were rare cultivation geniuses, but now one must be destroyed and the other must be protected. Is this something that people can think of? Not to mention, there is Su Jian above them. What will your direct disciple think of you then? After a long while, Chanmei Immortal said angrily, I don't believe they will really be stubborn. The head of Yuzhing was speechless. The conversation ended. As the news of Lin Yunpo and Zisu's formation of elixirs spread one after another, the Emei Jinding school could no longer remain silent. According to the rules of Shushan, the Taoist name is given by the master, that is, the peak master, after the disciple has formed the elixir. However, Su Jian is still in seclusion, and people from other peaks cannot take over. But if there is no Taoist name, people cannot directly call Jindan Zhenren by his name, which is too rude, so there must be a rule after all. After pretending to be deaf and dumb for half a month, the head of Yuzhen finally sent someone to send the Taoist name. Ling Yunpo, the Taoist name is King Feng. Zisu, the Taoist name is Jing Xiao. Since Master Su Jian is in seclusion, the one who gave the two Taoist names can only be Master's master, that is, Chang Mei Zhenren. For a time, everyone in Shushan was speculating and analyzing the deep meaning of these two Taoist names. Only Ling Yunpo vaguely guessed that these two Taoist names probably didn't have any meaning. My natal sword is King Ping sword, so the Taoist name is King Feng. Senior sister's natal sword is Feian sword, which is crimson, so the Taoist name is Jing Xiao. There is nothing wrong with this Taoist name. After all, most of the Shushan peak masters also used their natal swords as an introduction to give their disciples corresponding Taoist names. But compared with the intentions of the Ziwei sect master, the Shushan side seems too casual and pales in comparison. In short, after taking the Kunlun mirror fragments and senior sister and forming a perfect pill, the Shushan side has come to an end for the time being. The next step is to read the Penglai line. Jin, read the file. Ling Yunpo said calmly. Point 3. Penglai Yu King Temple, Tiangong Workshop. Character Identity. Luoyan. Mirror Flower Water Moon Templar covered, in the process of time travel. Back to Penglai Yu King Temple, Luoyan pretended to practice the advanced key refining technique King Erozishu obtained by Elder Shidin, while silently estimating the time. After the rumors of Qiu Cheng Tian, Zhu Yinlian, Ling Yunpo and Zisu's forming pills have completely passed, he will start preparing for forming pills again, so that he can stagger the time with them and not easily arouse people's reverie. As for the Dan level, Luoyan had already thought about it, 2nd grade Golden Dan. First of all, Luoyan's situation was much safer than Ling Yunpo, and he did not have to worry about hiding his shortcomings. It would be difficult to explain to Elder Shiding if he formed a Dan in advance and only formed a 3rd grade Golden Dan. After all, Elder Shiding also had high hopes for him. Secondly, since Luoyan wanted to seize the fragments of the Butian stone, he had to find ways to improve his status in Penglai Yu King Temple. It was definitely not enough to just become the heir of Tiangong Fang. The fragments of the Butian stone were in the hands of the Wangxiang Immortal who guarded the sect, so he had to become a junior worthy at the attention of the Wangxiang Immortal, and then he would have a legitimate reason to contact him later. Therefore, Luoyan planned to disappear for a while soon, accidentally fell into a secret realm, and encountered a lot of Purple Mansion adventures to make up the gap from the threshold of the 3rd grade Golden Dan to the 2nd grade. Just as he was patiently lurking, he suddenly learned a piece of news. Senior brother Limushu, who had survived the infant formation calamity, returned. Chapter 527. Drain him to death. After Limushu returned from giving birth, Luoyan went to visit him with his master, Shiuli, and 3rd sister Liangruo. After giving birth, Limushu was officially promoted to the ranks of elders of Yu King Temple, and was qualified to establish a school within Penglai. In order to show his Taoist heritage, Limushu's new school was called Tiangong Sword Casting Workshop, which was located deep underground in Penglai Fairy Island, so it was convenient to receive the molten fire under the sea. The two followed the underground corridor and arrived at Tiangong Sword Casting Workshop, where they saw the eldest brother Limushu wearing the brocade robe unique to welders, chatting and laughing with several other elders. Master, he called respectfully. Good, good. Elder Shiding was very pleased, so he pulled Limushu to chat, intending to teach him some of the elder's experience. Liangruo was listening nearby. Mishu was bored, so she quietly pulled Luoyan aside and asked, I heard that there will be another junior sister in our Tiangong workshop. Who told you that? Luoyan asked in surprise. I heard it from my senior sister. Shiuli showed a don't lie to me expression. Oh. Luoyan smiled and said, I don't know about this, but, since the death of the 4th senior brother, the Guanglingshi family seems to have been planning to send another person to worship under the master. I met him last time. Really? Shiuli frowned, obviously suppressing her displeasure, and asked in a low voice, is the junior sister pretty? Luoyan. Miss Shi, there's something wrong with your sour taste. I didn't notice that. Luo Yan pretended to think hard and said embarrassedly, "Wait, let me think about it carefully. Alas, I was just busy chatting with her elders at the time, and I didn't see what she looked like." He pretended to have lost his memory, but Mishu felt relieved and secretly relieved in her heart. After exchanging greetings with Mishu, everyone said goodbye and left. Thinking that the eldest brother would no longer stay in Tiangong workshop, Shili felt inexplicably sad. However, the next moment, she was dumbfounded again. Because Luo Yan was reporting to Welder Shiding that he planned to go out for a while. "Master, I heard that the chief of Kunlun Foundation Establishment Realm had formed a first-grade golden elixir. I also want to go out to seek adventures. While I have plenty of life, I will work hard to sprint to the golden elixir level. Please allow me to do so." Elder Shiding thought about it, and before he replied, Mishu refused. "Junior brother," she shouted anxiously, and her emotions sounded like anger, but also like some kind of panic of being abandoned. "You are planning to leave me alone to go out and play, right?" "No, senior sister," Luo Yan said gently, "I'm going to gain experience." Experience is another way of saying playing. Shili showed an angry expression of "don't try to fool me," but soon she felt a lot of grievances. "Luoli," Elder Shiding said in a deep voice, "don't mess around. Luo Yan is not going out to play, but to prepare for his future path. You can't interfere with him on this." After saying that, he turned to Luo Yan and asked, "Luo Yan, judging from your expression, it seems that you have made up your mind?" Reporting to the master, Luo Yan said solemnly, "I have roughly thought about the exploration target of this trip. It's just that the uncertain risks are too great, so I am not sure for the time being. In any case, safety is still the first priority." Elder Shiding said seriously, "If the master is right, you are not far from the threshold of the third-grade golden elixir. If you encounter dangerous places in the future, you still have to be careful." In the eyes of Elder Shiding, Luo Yan has taken Keyuan Limqi, Yochai Jinline, Thuxia Dan, and claimed that he took Jin Mercury Dan, which adds up to 170 years of cultivation. The remaining 30 years can be made up by daily practice. The reason why he said he still had to sprint was probably because he had the ambition to go to the second-grade golden elixir. It is not a bad thing for young people to be ambitious. Even if Qiu Changtime is as talented as he is, how can he finally get the first-grade golden elixir if he doesn't rely on various kinds of outdoor training? Kunling can't have so many secret medicines of the Purple Mansion. Disciple understands. Luo Yan nodded hurriedly. With the permission of Elder Shiding, in order to prevent Mishu from pestering him with "I want to go with you," Luo Yan didn't even take his things with him and flew directly to the sea southeast of Penglai Island. Mishu really chased him out after a while, but she couldn't find the shadow of her junior brother in the Tiangong workshop, so she got angry again. The next day, Shili, who couldn't sleep all night, finally made up her mind for the first time. "Father, I want to go out for training too." She found Elder Shiding and said seriously. "I've already said it." Elder Shiding subconsciously thought that she was going to chase Luo Yan, and was about to continue educating his daughter, but suddenly reacted, "Father, I'm not talking about going to find my junior brother," Shili said firmly. "I also want to sprint for the golden core grade." Luo Yan didn't let Shili follow him because he was not going out for training, but just to find an excuse to form the golden core. After arriving at the island where he practiced the 5 elements divine like last time, Luo Yan landed and planned to stay here for a while so that he could easily pass the tribulation. After about 7 or 8 days, several dark clouds suddenly covered the area. Luo Yan looked carefully and saw 3 women dressed in enchanting clothes. Judging from their clothes, they seemed to be golden core true immortals of the heavenly demon. Then Penglai Luo Yan might be here. One of them hovered in the air, waved his sleeves, and released several hovering demons. Found it. The demon suddenly swooped down and pounced directly on Luo Yan in the forest. Luo Yan shot out the Wang Time Kun sword expressionlessly, killing the demon and destroying it, his mind sinking slightly. From the other party's words and tone, it seemed that they had known the general direction of my flying sword and followed me all the way. Wait, I just proposed to go out for training at the last minute, and the direction was also chosen randomly. In other words, there is a traitor in Yuking Temple who leaked my whereabouts. Well, this is something I have known for a long time. If I can become the master of the temple one day, I will definitely clean up the entire Penglai. Luo Yan sneered in his heart, but sighed on his face. Heavenly demon did monks? How did you find this place? Curious. It doesn't matter. The leading heavenly demon, a real person, said with an evil smile, "Wait until you're refined into a demon by us, and we will naturally have enough time to communicate." "Is that so?" Luo Yan sneered and put his palms together. The acquired 5 elements of great extinction divine light. The divine light was endless, pouring out from the gaps between his palms and sweeping into the air. The 3 heavenly demon, a real people, immediately controlled the heavenly demons to disperse and quickly dodge the attack of the acquired 5 elements divine light. Their speed was so fast that neither the 5 elements divine light nor the one-time consort could catch up with them. It was clear that they were prepared for Luo Yan. After all, Luo Yan was only at the warrior level, and the 5 elements divine light, as an immortal level secret technique, must consume a huge amount of true essence. As long as he could be held back for a while, he would be able to be easily killed when his true essence was exhausted. Half a quarter of an hour later, the 3 heavenly demon masters exchanged looks of fear with unbelievable expressions on their faces. True essence, not much left. Chapter 528. I'm sorry to see you back. Explosive killing. Luo Yan leisurely used the 5 elements divine light to exhaust the true essence of the 3 heavenly demon, a real people, and then directly wrapped one of them and killed him instantly. The other 2 finally realized that something was wrong and tried to escape. As a result, Luo Yan used the one-time consort to kill another person, and finally used the unity of man and sword to kill the last demon, a jinn and real person. After killing them, Luo Yan suddenly realized that he seemed to have not noticed what realm the other party was in. 2 of them are in the god-storing stage, just like you. Kunlun Mirror replied, the other one is in the root-seeking stage. I see. Luo Yan asked curiously, why didn't I notice that one of the enemies is stronger than the other 2? Kunlun Mirror and Kingping Sword didn't want to pay attention to this person's knowing question, but just kept silent. Luo Yan also felt a little boring. After all, it was really boring that this person's absolute strength was unknown to no one because he had to maintain a hypocritical persona. He flew away on his sword and set out on the road back to Yuking Temple. Back to Yuking Temple, Luo Yan had already thought of an explanation in his mind. For example, he accidentally entered the ruins of Jirizhou and swallowed Yang's the human pill. He wandered in the 9 netherworld and took the petals at the other shore. He encountered the fairy mountain overseas and obtained the golden juice and jade liquid, etc. All the adventures of Wei Dongliu can be transferred to Luo Yan. Anyway, it is impossible for anyone to confront Wei Dongliu to verify it. After returning to Tiangongfang, Luo Yan unexpectedly found that the eldest brother Ling Yushu and the 3rd sister Liang Guohua were standing at the door of the room of the elder Shi Din, talking to each other with a serious face. Little brother, you are back. Seeing that Luo Yan finally returned, Ling Yushu said worriedly, go in quickly, Master also wants to see you. Luo Yan. I have a bad premonition. When he walked into the room, Luo Yan saw the elder Shi Ding sitting on the bed with a great face, and Shi Lili was lying on the bed, hugging his father and crying. Master, what's wrong with you? Luo Yan was shocked and rushed to the bed of the elder Shi Ding, crying in grief. Ha ha ha, Master is fine. Elder Shi Ding showed a forced smile, we were ambushed by a few elders of the heavenly demon sect. It's all my fault. Shi Lili burst into tears beside him, if it wasn't for taking me to explore the secret realm of Zaifu, Luli. Elder Shi Ding stretched out his arm and touched his daughter's hair lovingly, it's not your fault. The demon sect is ambushing my Yuking Temple. As the master of Tiangong Workshop, it is inevitable that father will be targeted by the demon sect. It has nothing to do with you. Luo Yan listened with tears in his eyes, thinking that's it. Was it because he was taking Mishi to explore the secret realm and was ambushed by the heavenly demon sect on the way back? It's the same as me. It's just that I fought 3 people and killed them directly, but Master couldn't do it. After all, Yuking Temple is not known for its combat power. Wait, Master has given me the Tiangong treasure bag that he usually relies on to protect himself in advance. Could it be because of this reason? Don't think about it, that's it. Kunlun Mirror sighed. Luo Yan was silent for a long time, and asked, Master, your injury, it's okay. Elder Shi Ding said with a smile. It's okay, that means there's no hope, right? Luo Yan was speechless for a moment. He nodded slightly, then got up and left, leaving time for the father and daughter. When he came outside, Luo Yan asked Ling Yushu, Master, what's the matter with your injury? The poison of the demon invaded the 5 internal organs, and it is difficult to cure it. Ling Yushu whispered, the Wangxiang Immortal said that the current plan is to quickly die, and you can also ensure reincarnation. Luo Yan was silent for a long time again, and asked, what does Master mean? Liang Guohua shook her head. Hard to say. that means he plans to die, but he is a little reluctant to let Lily go. A Jin, kingpin. Luo Yan whispered in his heart, is there any way to deal with this situation? Yuan Shu. Come Lin Jin whispered, the demon poison can be cured, but the corrupted body cannot be restored unless the soul is transferred to another place, or it may be saved. But don't forget that the soul itself needs the nourishment of the body. Kingpin Jin added, without the body, you can only practice the way of ghost inference. The lifespan varies from 5,000 to nearly 10,000 years, but you can't escape death in the end, and the soul's essence is consumed too much, and it is impossible to reincarnate. Luo Yan thought silently for a moment, and then turned back to the room again. Master. He bowed beside the bed. Luli, you go out first. Elder Shiding saw that he had something to say, so he ordered. Shiluli wiped her tears and turned to leave the room. Master. Luo Yan stood up and said in a low voice, the demonic poison can be cured, but only the body can't be repaired, right? Elder Shiding smiled carefree, no need, I'm ready to die. He slowly raised his eyes, looked at the ceiling above his head, and called, Luo Yan, come here. Luo Yan immediately knew that he was going to entrust his son to you, and hurried to his bedside. I don't have too many regrets in my life. Elder Shiding looked at him gently, the only things I can't let go of are you and Luli. Although our Penglayu King Temple is not as sharp as Shushan, in the final analysis, it is still the capable ones who prevail. Luo Yan, you are steady by nature and good at hiding your shortcomings. In most cases, this is a good thing, but it will also make you miss many opportunities. After I leave, you will be the master of Tiangong Workshop. You must remember to be in a superior position and not, cough cough. Let people look down on you. He coughed hard for a while, and then said, Luli, she has been loved by me since she was a child and has not suffered too much. In the future, I will ask you to take more care of her. Don't worry, master. Luo Yan said quickly, I will never abandon my sister, Luo Yan. Elder Shiding raised his hand to interrupt him, I trust you. He made a breathing sound like a bellows leaking there, and said laboriously, I don't ask Lily to form an elixir and become an infant, I just hope she can live the rest of her life in peace and happiness. It's a pity that I can't see you become Taoist couples. Luo Yan listened with tears in his eyes. Suddenly, someone pushed the door open. It was the short and hunched Wonxiang Immortal. Shiding, the time has come. If you don't leave now, when will you leave? Thank you, Immortal. Elder Shiding said weakly. If you want to retain your wisdom and have the possibility of awakening your memory after reincarnation, I have a way. Wonxiang Immortal saw that he was so open-minded, but he felt a little reluctant and said. Elder Shiding was silent for a moment, shook his head and smiled. No need. The younger generation has their own destiny, why should I linger and force them to go? Luo Yan, you stay outside, don't let Luli in, it's sad to see. He slowly closed his eyelids. Luo Yan finally sighed in his heart, and bowed to the Wonxiang Immortal, then resolutely stood up and left. As soon as he walked out of the door, Shiluli came forward in a panic and asked, Junior brother, where is my father? Luo Yan shook his head sadly. Shiluli looked at him in a daze, and suddenly wanted to rush in, but was hugged by Luo Yan. Senior sister. Luo Yan said sadly, Master said, tell you not to go in, so as not to be sad. Wonxiang Immortal is helping Master to dissolve the body, and you can't be disturbed. Shiluli was still struggling violently, but after hearing the second half of the sentence, it seemed that all her strength was drained away, and she slowly collapsed in his arms. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Mundo Fanfic Novelers, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelers. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 529. The Dragon Loses Its Head. Elder Shiding was released. When the Wonxiang Immortal opened the door and everyone rushed into the room again, there was no trace of Elder Shiding. There were no remains, no clothes, he disappeared from this world completely. Wonxiang Immortal stroked his beard and remained silent. The Xuandu sect master, who came after hearing the news, grabbed Ling Yushu and asked what happened. Ling Yushu's eyes were red and he barely said a few words. He did not follow Elder Shiding out, so he did not know what happened. Third sister Liang Ruohe was crying silently beside him, with a look of grief and hesitation on her face. Luo Yan and Shiluli, who should have been the saddest, unexpectedly had no expression. Luo Yan gently hugged Shiluli, looking at the place where his master had been lying, and he was still unable to accept the reality. My master, just like that, is gone. For a moment, he seemed to have lost the ability to cry, with thousands of thoughts interweaving in his mind, and it seemed empty and blank. Shirley also stared at the bed, without crying, but without saying a word. Her silence was a little scary. The Kshanda sect leader wanted to ask her what happened, but seeing her in such a daze, like a calm volcano about to erupt, he couldn't say much for a while, so he could only whisper to Lingushu. Let Lily calm down for a while, and when she recovers, ask her about the attack on the stone tripod. No need. Shirley suddenly raised her head, gently broke free from Luo Yan's arms, saluted to the Kshanda sect leader and said, "Whatever you want to ask, Lily will tell you." Seeing her so uncharacteristic, Luo Yan, Lingushu and Liang Ruohol felt a little shocked. This etiquette of talking to welders is impeccable, but when has Miss Shi ever paid attention to etiquette? The sense of disobedience is too strong. The Kshanda sect master said gently, "No hurry, no hurry. Luli, please accept your condolences first. It's the same if you ask again in a few days. This matter is of vital importance to Penglai, so it's better to explain it clearly first." Shirley still had no expression, but just said mechanically, "Father and I were attacked on the way back." "Where did we return from?" asked the Kshanda sect master. "Ulun Island," Shirley replied. "It is located 1,500 miles northwest of Penglai. It is an isolated island with no other large islands around it. The island is surrounded by cliffs on all sides, with an isolated peak in the center. There is a secret realm of the Purple Mansion in the peak. After hearing about it, my father took me to explore it. The place where we were attacked is on the sea on the way back from Ulun Island, about 700 miles away from Penglai." "I see." These words were very logical, so much so that the Kshanda sect master was quite surprised. Lily is actually a smart child, maybe it's because of the loss of his father that he has matured. "About the attacker?" he asked again. "I was just about to explain it to the headmaster," Shirley said softly. Luo Yan noticed that she was holding his hands with a barely noticeable force. "There are 3 of them, all female, in the nascent soul stage. I can't tell their specific cultivation level because of my limited knowledge. One of them is wearing a black robe, with a bun on the back of her head, fixed with a bone-colored hairpin, with a green dot in the center, driving the heavenly demon to attack her. The heavenly demon is a translucent skeleton, traveling back and forth with green smoke and making evil sounds, the leader of the heavenly demon sect, Dugushi." The Wonksai Immortal stroked his beard and said, "This villain's magic is extremely profound, and ordinary cultivators cannot defeat him. Your father, alas, he is unlucky." Shirley nodded slightly and continued. "The other 2, also wearing black robes, have disheveled hair, have charming looks and similar facial features, as if they were one person, with a pale face like paper, and drive invisible heavenly demons, ghost mother sisters." The head of Kshanda said solemnly, "Dugushi's right-hand men are accomplices to the tiger." Shirley wrote down these names and said in a low voice, "There are some things that I don't know whether I should say or not." "It's okay to say it." Wonksai Immortal nodded. Shirley was silent for a moment and said, "It doesn't seem like these 3 people met by chance, but they followed my father all the way here. Lily doesn't understand. My father and I came on this trip on a whim, and we didn't tell anyone in advance. How did that evil villain know the whereabouts of my father and daughter? If there wasn't a traitor in the sect who tipped off the whereabouts, how do you explain it?" Luli, senior brother Lingushu said, but was interrupted by the immortal Wonksai. "Kshandu, this matter must be investigated. Since Lily suspects that someone informed the evil sect of our whereabouts, who was the elder who patrolled the sect outside Penglai that day?" "Elder Linying." The head of Kshandu replied, "I'll go find her." "Grandpa Headmaster, wait a moment," Shirley said, "since my father and I didn't reveal our whereabouts to anyone before we set out, it must be that the cultivators patrolling the sect outside Penglai saw which direction we were going and then went to tip off the evil sect. The patrolling monks are under the jurisdiction of Elder Linying. If something happens, Elder Linying will be the first to be suspected. If she is the traitor, she is so reckless. How can she be like standing on the precipice?" "That's true." The head of Kshandu nodded. "The traitor may also be a patrolling monk on duty under her jurisdiction, so, Lily's humble opinion, we can first have someone make a big fuss to arrest Elder Linying, and secretly monitor the patrolling monks under his command. The traitor will be frightened when he sees Elder Linying being arrested, and will reveal his flaws. In addition to the patrolling monks, their relatives and friends who have daily contact with them must also be monitored. We cannot rule out the possibility that they have learned about the news from the patrolling monks." Shi Lui finished speaking in one breath, then retreated to Luo Yan's side, bowed his head and said nothing. Let's do it this way. Wang Xi and Immortal sighed. There are still things that need to be decided by the Immortal and the headmaster. Seeing that the two are about to leave, Shi Lui spoke again. Go ahead. The Quandu sect master felt sorry for her and asked gently. First, it's about the change of ownership of Tiangong Fang. Shi Lui said calmly, when my father was alive, he designated my junior brother Luo Yan as the successor of Tiangong Fang. Now the temple should respect his will and allow him to inherit the position of the master of Tiangong Fang. Luo Yan was a little surprised, and only heard the Quandu sect master hesitate and say, since it is Shi Ding's last wish, it's naturally fine. But Luo Yan has not yet formed a pill, and it is not appropriate for him to be the master of Tiangong Fang with the identity of the foundation building realm. He turned his eyes to the third senior sister Liang Ruohu and said, Zhenren Henqiu, Lemwushu, has already established a sect, so why not let Zhenren Washu, Liang Ruohu, temporarily take over as the master of the workshop, and wait until Luo Yan forms a pill, and then make the handover. Luo Yan's eyes were stern, and only heard Shi Lui said in surprise again, this is not possible. Although my Tiangong Fang is proficient in casting hundreds of instruments, the majority of its income comes from setting up formations. This is also the reason why Master designated junior brother Luo as the successor. Besides, the Tiangong 100 treasure bag was personally passed down by the shop owner, and was already bestowed on Luo Yan by my father in advance. If senior sister Liang does not have the Tiangong 100 treasure bag, but temporarily takes over the position of shop owner, how will the outside world view senior sister? Liang Ruohu's heart was hot when she heard the words of the headmaster just now. At this time, after being reminded by Shi Lui, she immediately calmed down. Tiangong Workshop is known for casting magical instruments, but is weak in fighting. If someone succeeds the shop owner without the Tiangong 100 treasure bag, how can she control the situation outside? The demon cult can kill Elder Shi Din, but can't kill her, the next shop owner. Thinking of this, she also felt a little ashamed and declined politely, saying, the Tiangong 100 treasure bag is exclusive to the owner of Tiangong Workshop. Master's last wish, you dare not disobey. This, Headmaster Quandu looked at the immortal Wang Xiang. With the foundation building realm, only a heretic would act so unruly to inherit the mantle of a Taoist sect. Wang Xiang Immortal shook his head, since Master Wishu is unwilling, the position of the master of Tiangong Fan can be put aside for the time being. Shi Lui gritted his teeth when he heard this, and became even more anxious. Today's Tiangong Fan can be said to be supported by his father alone. His father's sudden death was undoubtedly a huge blow to the status and reputation of Tiangong Fang. In the future, whether the third sister who is not familiar with the formation temporarily takes over the position of the master of Tiangong Fang, or the position of the master is temporarily vacant, this situation will be further worsened. Now that my father has passed away not long ago, it is the best time for the elders of the sect to care about the friendship of the past years and to speak. If I can't push my junior brother up, after a period of time, this sadness will fade, and it will be almost hopeless. I can't let my father's Tiangong workshop fall into decline like this. And she was determined to abandon all her dignity, kneel on the ground and kowtow, begging the immortal for mercy in the most humble manner, but she only heard Luo Yan say in a deep voice, Your Excellency, Master, I'm an unworthy disciple, Luo Yan. I went out to practice and overcome tribulations a few days ago, and I have already formed a second-grade golden elixir and returned. Chapter 530. Shi Lui's temperament changes. Second-grade golden elixir. Now, both Wang Xiang Immortal and Quandu sect master were shocked and asked in astonishment. Wang Xiang Immortal was not vague either. He directly grabbed his wrist and probed his mind inside. Under the blessing of Kunlun Mirror's magic, his mind saw that in Luo Yan's Danton, the true essence was like a big river, and its power was far above the third-grade golden elixir, almost close to the realm of the golden elixir realm root-seeking stage. Good. 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 Wang Xiang Immortal laughed. With this second-grade golden elixir, what can the master of Tiangong Fan not do? Shi Lui, who was next to him, was ready to go all out, but suddenly saw the situation turn around, and his desperate eyes suddenly bloomed with brilliance again. Quandu sect master, Ling Yushu and Liang Ruohu next to him were also delighted. Luo Yan, since you have been promoted to a true person and the stone tripod is no longer in existence, I will give you the Taoist name Jinun. Wang Xiang Immortal was in a good mood and stroked his beard and said, Tiangong Fan has no nascent soul elders now. Even if there are two golden core true persons, it is inevitable that they will be affected. Since you have inherited the position of the master of Tiangong Fang, you must practice diligently. As long as you form a nascent soul as soon as possible, you can restore the former glory of Tiangong Fang. Do you understand? Disciple understands. Luo Yan said solemnly. Very good. Wang Xiang Immortal turned to Xuandu sect master. Xuandu, Jinnun will be the master of Tiangong Fang. You can explain it in the temple, don't forget to mention the golden core grade. Yes. Xuandu sect master said immediately. Then, Wang Xiang Immortal was about to say then we'll leave first, but suddenly remembered something, looked at Shilili and said, Little Luli, do you have anything else to say? To be honest with you, Immortal. Shilili said calmly, there is indeed one more thing I want to ask you. The head of Xuandu turned around and wanted to leave, but he stopped in his tracks when he heard this, thinking to himself, Shilili's temperament has really changed drastically, and he doesn't know whether it is good or bad. You tell me now. The Wang Xiang Immortal nodded. Shiding made great contributions to the temple during his lifetime, and Penglai will not treat his children unfairly. Yes. Shilili continued expressionlessly, my father intended to marry me to my junior brother, Zenrun Jinnun. Everyone in the temple knows about this. After my father's funeral, please ask the Immortal to preside over the ceremony for me and Zenrun Jinnun to become Taoist couples. This, Luo Yan looked at Shilili in shock, but only saw Mishi looking over at him at the same time, her brows slightly furrowed, her eyes full of tears, and her expression 3 parts of misery and 7 parts of helplessness before she spoke, clearly begging him, don't refuse first, okay? Thinking of the fact that Elder Shiding's death was indeed partly due to the fact that he did not have the Tiangong 100 treasures back on him, Luo Yan's heart softened immediately, and looking at Shilili's pitiful face again, he could no longer think of evading the idea. Alas, master, seeing the two people looking at each other, Luo Yan did not refuse, and the Wang Xiang Immortal nodded and agreed. Okay, Jinnun is a 2nd grade golden elixir, and I have a basis for coming forward. The matter was settled, and the Wang Xiang Immortal and the head of Xuandu hurried away. There were already rumors in the temple about the death of Elder Shiding, and the two needed to give an official statement as soon as possible to avoid the impact of public opinion. Ling Yushu and Liang Guohe looked at Shilili, hesitant to speak. It is normal to cry loudly after losing your father, and Miss Shi is so calm, probably because she is so sad that she has begun to suppress her body instincts. This is really easy to cause a flaw in the heart of Taoism and provoke the inner demon. It is better to cry and vent your emotions, but the two don't know how to persuade, so they can only look to Luo Yan for help. Luo Yan gritted his teeth and said, Senior sister, from now on, we will be Taoist companions, just call me Luli. Shilili said softly, turning to look at Lemshu, Senior brother, Lily is here, and I have a request. You go. Ling Yushu said softly with pity in his heart. In the past, in Tiangong workshop, Lily was favored by her father and had never learned any weapon forging skills. Shilili said woodenly, now that my father has passed away, Tiangong workshop has changed drastically. It is inevitable that it will fall into a state of lack of successes in the future. Among the magic weapons, the flying sword is the most important. Luli wants to learn sword forging from scratch, that's great. Ling Yushu said hurriedly, my sword forging skills originally came from my master, and now it's just the right time to pass them on to my junior sister. He took out the storage bag in a hurry, checked the jade slips inside, and handed it to Shilili, saying, the many secrets of sword forging, as well as my experience over the years, are all here. I still have some materials in my sword forging workshop. I will go back and get them all for you. Alas. In Luo Yan's mind, King Ping's sword suddenly sighed and said, she really caught the opportunity at this time. My father just passed away, and her temperament changed drastically. It is obvious that she is so sad that she can't even cry. At this time, no matter who you ask for anything, you can maximize the value of the favor left by Elder Shiding, who can bear to see her like this. That's not what I said. Kunlun Mirror corrected it, with Shilili's personality, she would not do such a petty thing. The main reason is that she is really heartbroken and in unbearable pain, so she has to transfer her feelings to saving Tiangong workshop to numb herself. The mirror and the sword sighed, but Luo Yan looked at Shilili silently, not knowing what to say. Ling Yushu hurried back to Tiangong sword forging workshop. Liang Guohe also wiped away her tears and said, then I will go back first. Jinnun, and junior sister, if there is anything next, just call me. Her voice paused for a moment, and suddenly she couldn't suppress the grief in her heart, rushed over and hugged the two tightly, and then turned and left. Luli. Luo Yan called slowly. Shili was still in a daze, and after a while, she said, Luoyan, Tiangong, now there is a lot of work to be done, and as the new owner, you still need to master many things as soon as possible. Now that my father is gone, the many sects and families from the outside world that originally cooperated with Tiangong will inevitably lose their confidence. We need to appease them one by one. Before he finished speaking, Luoyan hugged her tightly in his arms again. Luoli, he said bitterly, if you are sad, just cry, it will feel better if you cry. Shili let him hold her stiffly, and after a long time, she clumsily put her hands around his waist. Luoyan, she said in a low voice, my mother died when I was 3 years old because she failed to pass the infant formation tribulation. Since I can remember, my father is the only one in my life. As long as my father is still there, I am not afraid of anything. Now, even my father is gone. She hugged Luoyan's waist tightly and buried her face in his chest. Luoyan could feel her trembling slightly. When she raised her head again, there were no tears on her pretty face, but Luoyan could see more and more condensed emotions in her eyes. Okay. Shili smiled reluctantly, I'm going to learn sword making. There's still a lot of work to do. She took the jade slip given by Ling Shu and walked towards the workshop. Luoyan stared at her back blankly, and then lowered his head for a long time. There was a barely detectable mark near his robe on his chest. A small, faint wet mark. Chapter 531. The Eloquent Shili. After a few days, the internal investigation of Penglai finally yielded results. The spy was not someone Luoyan knew, but the Taoist partner of a patrolling monk. After getting information from her husband, she secretly informed the demon sect. The head of Xuandu had arranged for someone to interrogate her overnight. After Luoyan learned about it, he hurried to find Shili and told her about the situation. The identity of this spy is actually irrelevant. Shili took the jade slip and said slowly, the key lies in who is the contact person responsible for contacting her on the demonic path. If the two are only in one-way contact, once the other side gets wind of it, they will immediately abandon the spy, and it may not be possible to find out by then, and the clues will be cut here. Luoyan advised carefully, don't worry, maybe we can torture the spy to get enough information before the contact person finds out, so as to uproot this spy network. Anxious. Shili was stunned for a moment, then shook his head and said, I'm not in a hurry. My father's revenge is not on a certain person, but on the entire demonic path. Luoyan. Okay, no matter who should be responsible for the death of Elder Shidin, as long as the entire demonic path is completely destroyed, the great revenge can be avenged 100%. This logic is indeed correct, it is indeed simple and crude. Luoli, what are you looking at? Luoyan tried to ease the atmosphere. Sword forging. Shili replied, my eldest brother has set up his own business, and my father is gone now. There is no one in Tiangong who can forge swords anymore. Flying swords are currently the most profitable magic weapon business. If this business is missing, it will cause a big gap in the financial income of Tiangong. At this point, her voice paused, and suddenly asked, last time, the Guanglingshi family sent someone to come here, wanting their young disciples to worship in Tiangong. Yes. Luoyan nodded, but now master, I don't know if the Shi family still has this intention. We must maintain our relationship with the Shi family. Shili stood up, took Luoyan's arm, and explained in a low voice, after my father left, the confidence of the original business partners in our Tiangong must have dropped significantly. As long as the Shi family continues to fulfill the original cooperation, at least some impressions and evaluations of the outside world can be saved. Well, I'll go with you this time. Luoyan hesitated. In normal times, when Mishi took his arm, her face would definitely be full of smiles. Now such a cold and rational Shili is really too uncomfortable. Ahem, Lily is about to become my Taoist partner, I'd better get used to it as soon as possible. Of course, when it comes to being flexible and adapting to the environment, Luoyan, a multi-party spy, is naturally experienced, and naturally will not be stumped by such a Shili. Soon, he took Shili away from Penglai, flew west on a sword to the Shenzhou continent, and came to Guanglingshi's house to visit. Guanglingshi's family is also a large family of immortal cultivation in the local area. Although the cultivation realm of the family's children is not top-notch, they do have a certain family background in the casting of space-related magic tools. Seeing that Jin Dunsinren from Penglai came to visit, the Shi family immediately sent children to greet them. Luo Yan and Shi followed the Shi family children into the spacious reception room, and saw Shi Xing hurriedly coming from the back hall, enthusiastically inviting the two to sit down. Master Shi. Luo Yan calmly drank a sip of tea, and then went straight to the point. I'm sure you've heard about the situation at Tiangong Workshop. We came here this time to ask if the last entry agreement still counts. How can it not count? Shi Xing said with a cautious smile, it's just, we are all so deeply saddened by the matter of Elder Shi Din, but now there is no one in the Tiangong Workshop who can teach Shi King to refine space magic tools, right? Even if she becomes a disciple at Tiangong Workshop, who can she learn from? Master Shi. Shi said calmly at the sight, Lily is not talented, and would like to make a few corrections to the questions you just raised. First, even when my father was alive, he accepted fourth senior brother Xuanxi as his apprentice, but he did not teach him every day or instruct him in person. Most of the time, senior brother Xi studied on his own according to the relevant classics left by my father. Secondly, the so-called inheritance of the mantle is not the master himself, but the corresponding knowledge system taught. Ordinary cultivators may still need a master to teach and answer their questions, but since Shi King has the ability of photographic memory, the demand in this regard can be reduced to a minimum. Having said that, Shi Xing showed an embarrassed expression, but joining the Tiangong Workshop without a master is really unacceptable. The Shi family is not a place where I have the final say, and the elders will definitely have doubts about this. Since it is the opinion of the elders, there must be another statement. Shi said calmly, if I guess correctly, the elders of the Shi family don't care what Shi King can learn. They only care about what benefits Shi King can bring to the Shi family after joining the Tiangong Workshop. Let me explain to you here. The greatest benefit of Shi King joining the Tiangong Workshop is not her growth, but that the Guangling Shi family can take this opportunity to obtain the resources of the Pengliu King Temple. Shi Xing was still fiddling with the cups with his fingers, but when he heard this, he subconsciously stopped what he did. The problem with the weapon casting industry is not the lack of market, but the high cost of initial investment. Shi continued, even in Pengliu King Temple, our Tiangong Workshop is the only one with complete weapon casting capabilities. Whether my father is alive or not, it will not change this fact. If the Shi family has concerns about this and ultimately does not let Shi King join our Tiangong Workshop, then whose sect do you plan to let her join? Among the many sects in the East China Sea, finding a sect that masters weapon refining technology to become a disciple is probably the alternative option you are currently considering. But although those sects have the technology, do they have enough resource reserves to rival Pengliu King Temple for Shi King to practice and learn weapon casting? Let's take a step back. Even if Shi King can master the weapon casting technology, what about Dan formation? Looking at the entire East China Sea, which sect has the highest success rate of Dan formation for Foundation establishment disciples? I don't think you need to remind me. This matter of becoming a disciple is not just about imparting knowledge and answering questions. On the path of cultivation, money, friends, dharma and land are all indispensable, and they still need to be considered comprehensively. Luli, please forgive me, I will stop here. After saying that, Shi raised the teacup and sipped it. Shi Xing sat opposite for a long time, and suddenly smiled bitterly and said, Luli, I have seen you many times when I visited Elder Shi Ding in the past, but I didn't know you were so eloquent. Maybe Tiangong Fan really has some inheritance and origin, which is why there are so many heroes and talents under the door. I have no objection, but I still have to discuss this matter with the elders, so I can't give you an immediate answer for the time being. Please forgive me. Well. Shi nodded, and then gave Luo Yan a look. Luo Yan stood up and said goodbye. After leaving Guangling County with Shi Luo Yan couldn't help asking, Luo, I don't know when you became so eloquent. Shi was silent for a moment, then said, Luo Yan. What's wrong? Luo Yan asked curiously, feeling that Miss Shi held his arms tighter. My father used to support the entire Tiangong Workshop. Shi said slowly, from now on, it's up to us. Chapter 532. Self-improvement. Shi Luo. According to his original habit, after staying in Penglai for a while, Luo Yan would turn around and read the files of other lines. However, Shi Luo's temperament had changed so much that she was like a completely different person, which made him really worried, so he stayed in Penglai for a little longer. Apart from other things, Shi Luo had been studying the way of sword-making too hard recently, and it could almost be said that she had forgotten to eat and sleep. Of course, it was not a big deal for a cultivator to not sleep or eat, but seeing her neglecting her cultivation like this, Luo Yan felt a little sorry for her. There was no other way. He could only take care of Sisters Yu and Sisterin and get her some secret medicine from the Purple Mansion. Luoli. Luoyan found Shilili again and asked for confirmation. How much have you accumulated in your Wafu cultivation now? Shilili pondered for a moment and replied, 60 years of Jin Mercury Dan, 50 years of Kayuan Limki, 30 years of Irochai Jinline, and 30 years of Thusia Dan. My father took me to Ulyu Island once before he died. I bathed in the Tianjili Guan on the top of the Sand Peak, and I cultivated in Wafu for another 50 years. So it adds up to 220 years, which is already the standard of a high-grade golden elixir. You don't have to worry that I will neglect my cultivation. Luoyan felt like crying when he heard this. So sensible. You can even guess what I'm worried about. This is not like you, Miss Shi. I would rather you were a little more arrogant, willful, and unruly. He couldn't help sighing in his heart, and asked again. Even so, don't be too obsessed with the art of sword making. After all, cultivation is the foundation of a cultivator, got it? Shilili smiled faintly and nodded, saying, Luoyan, I'm going to make a sword. Do you want to come and see? You have already learned how to make a sword? Luoyan was shocked. Sword making is about making a flying sword, not like a blacksmith in the mortal world. How can it be so easy to learn? It's only been less than half a month. It's hard to say. Shilili shook her head and said, we have to give it a try. I'll go and invite senior brother here. Luoyan pondered and said, if I really encounter any problems, at least there will be someone to answer my questions on the spot. He came to the Tiangong swordsmith workshop and told Ling Yushu about this. The reaction of senior brother was exactly the same. Lily has learned how to forge swords? It's been less than half a month. Ahem. Luoyan suddenly felt like I need to show off here and waved his hand and said, I've told her not to be too ambitious, but she has been working day and night for this period of time, and has almost devoted herself to it. It would be great if senior brother could confirm her progress. Jin Yun thanks you again. No need to be polite. Ling Yushu hurriedly said gently, I have been too busy these days and forgot to care about junior sister's progress in sword forging. It's just, Jin Yun, you also know that cultivation is the foundation of cultivation, but we can't let junior sister be too obsessed with sword forging. At this point, Ling Yushu's eyes turned red again, and he sighed. If master were still alive, he would never let junior sister suffer so much. The two of them expressed their gratitude to each other, and the atmosphere gradually became right. Ling Yushu immediately dropped the work at hand, and ignored the sword embryo in the furnace, and hurried to see Shilili's sword-making progress. By the way, junior brother, when do you plan to hold the Taoist couple ceremony with junior sister? It will be almost the end of the month. The immortal has something to do recently. The ceremony should be held as soon as possible. Junior sister's condition is really not right. I feel a little worried when I see it. It will be better for her to relax after getting married. Of course, even if it is to repay the master's kindness, I will not let Lily down. The two returned to Tiangong workshop and saw Shilili lighting the furnace in the sword-making room where Ling Yushu used to work. According to the different 5 elements of the sword, different materials and casting techniques are required. What Shilili is going to cast this time is a water-based flying sword. She used the Yuanzi forging furnace as a base to quickly shape the sword embryo, and then pinched the dough formula to activate the secret art of the Southern Dipper Galaxy. A large amount of water from the Milky Way poured into the forging furnace and was quickly absorbed by the magic circle seal on the sword embryo. Shilili pinched the dough formula with her right hand and the sword formula with her left hand, causing the sword embryo to rotate rapidly in the center of the Milky Way and fully absorb the water essence. Junior sister's sword forging skills are a little poor, but this sword making skills are already entry level. Ling Yushu did not dare to disturb her, but whispered to Luoyan, if it is perfect in the end, this sword should be between the 8th and 9th levels after it comes out of the furnace. TSK, I didn't expect that the junior sister actually has such a talent in sword forging. She is really worthy at being the master's daughter. He said to himself half disappointed and half emotionally. Luoyan didn't pay attention to these, after all, he knew nothing about sword forging. He just saw Shilili rolled up her sleeves, revealing her arms as white as lotus roots, and her hair was simply tied into a ponytail behind her head. This neat and sassy look really added more charm to her original delicate appearance. Although he had promised his deceased master that he would take good care of Luli, referring to training her to the extent of having enough status in New King Temple before seizing the beauty in stone, but seeing that Shilili was finally no longer arrogant and willful, and the only character flaw was overcome, Luoyan suddenly liked and pitied her in his heart. is to love her for being so self-reliant. Pity, but also pity that she had to be so self-reliant. If he could choose, Luo Yan would rather let her be an unrestrained lady forever, but unfortunately there is no if in this world. Alas, I can only do my best to treat her in the future. Master Sword Master, is this true or false? In the sea of consciousness, Kingping Sword quietly asked Kunlun Mirror. It should be sincere. Kunlun Jing replied, but what if it's sincere? Didn't he plan to run away in the end? I think that if Lord Sword Master can train Shillelagh to become the second Shining Elder in the future. Kingping Jian pondered and said, then even if he abandons her and runs away in the end, it can be said that he has done his best, right? How about that? Kunlun Jing immediately objected, then the feelings that Shillelagh has given, are they worthless? Even if he wants to run away, he has to put an end to these feelings. What does it mean to disappear without saying a word? But if we explain it directly, they may not agree. Kingping Jian chuckled and said, look at Shillelagh, she almost regards Lord Swordmaster as her spiritual pillar, and she is thinking about him everywhere. If Lord Swordmaster says to her in the future, I'm sorry, I'm a traitor or something like that, Shillelagh will be possessed on the spot and will cut open his stomach and dig out his heart. That, it's not necessary. Kunlun Jing felt guilty, but you hit the point. Even if he protects Shillelagh, he has also become her spiritual support. This emotional account is not so easy to settle. Anyway, let's wait and see the future. Chapter 533 Kissed Shillelagh. By the end of the month, Shillelagh's condition still showed no signs of improvement, but seemed to be getting worse. When learning the way of sword making, she was as hard-working and diligent as Zhu Yingyan. When practicing sword techniques and magic weapons, she was as brave and fearless as Zisu. This made Luo Yan sometimes even doubt whether Shillelagh was possessed by someone. He asked Jin to scan carefully, and said no, the soul was still in the body. But isn't it more sad to think like this? Luo Yan secretly made up his mind in his heart to make Miss Shi smile again. As for how to do it, Luo Yan has no clue now, but he believes that with his sunny personality and optimistic spirit, he will be able to use full positive energy to influence Miss Shi again. If there is still no effect, there is an old saying, time is the best medicine. In short, because of his concern for Shillelagh's mental problems, Luo Yan couldn't read the game calmly and left. He could only stay by her side every day, tell her some witty words, and make her happy. However, the jokes that used to make Miss Shi laugh could only make her smile faintly now. Rather than being amused by the jokes, it was more like a polite smile deliberately put on to reassure Luo Yan. This was not of genuine happiness. How could it fool Luo Yan, a professional spy? It was identified as fake happiness at a glance. Luo Yan couldn't do anything about her, and was so angry that he wanted to reload the game. Of course, it was impossible. Fortunately, the Wangxiang Immortal finally returned from the outside and could host the ceremony for the two to become Taoist couples. It was interesting to say. Luo Yan and Shillelagh's marriage was no secret, and Elder Shiding did not deliberately conceal it during his lifetime. It was just that everyone thought that Luo Yan was marrying Miss Shi. Who was Miss Shi? Elder Shiding's only beloved daughter, the apple of his eye, and becoming a Taoist couple with her meant that half of Tiangong Fan was in his hands. After all, the resources of the entire Tiangong Fan were almost available to Miss Shi. Even after Luo Yan became the heir, many of his fellow disciples in Penglai still thought that it was because of his relationship with Miss Shi that Elder Shiding looked at him with such respect. Now that Luo Yan had won a place in the Baiyuzheng competition and had formed a second-grade golden elixir, the public opinion in Yuqing Temple finally turned around, and it became that Elder Shiding had a keen eye for talent during his lifetime, and Shillelagh was lucky to meet her ideal husband. Many people even privately discussed that Miss Shi had been protected by Elder Shiding before. After her father unfortunately passed away, she immediately had a husband with a second-grade golden elixir to protect her. It can be said that it was a seamless transition and someone was always taking care of her. This blessing was too enviable. Shillelagh turned a deaf ear to these messages. Luo Yan was afraid that she would mind, so he went to comfort her several times, and every time she comforted her in return, saying don't worry about me, which was really distressing. Finally, the day of the ceremony came, and it was still the familiar process, exactly the same as the wedding ceremony of Qiu Chengtian and Zhu Yingyan. The only difference is that Zhu Yingyan has many elders, while Shillelagh is now an orphan. Thinking about it this way, it is even more sad. After the ceremony, the two moved in together. Luo Yan drank some wine at the wedding banquet, mainly because he had formed a second-grade golden elixir, and everyone regarded him as a candidate for the future high-level position of Penglai, so they rushed to toast and make themselves familiar with each other. After returning to the room, he poured himself some tea to rinse his mouth. Shiluli took off the phoenix crown, made the bed, and suddenly turned around and asked, "Do you want to do it tonight?" Puff. Luo Yan directly sprayed the tea in his mouth. "Do what?" "Give birth," Shiluli whispered. This, Luo Yan laughed dryly a few times, and said carefully, "It is more beneficial for cultivators to maintain their primordial yang and primordial yin in the future." This is a lie, mainly because he will run away sooner or later. If he took Shiluli's primordial yin, or even gave birth to a child and then ran away, what is the difference between him and some people of different skin colors? A gentleman has his own way of doing things and his own way of not doing things. I, Luo Yan, don't want to do this. Oh. Shiluli sat on the bed, and her expression seemed a little lost. Luo Yan looked at her carefully, thinking that this young lady seemed to lack love. Could it be the transference effect, and she regarded me as a spiritual pillar? Thinking of the kindness of Elder Shidin, Luo Yan's heart softened, and he went to sit beside Shiluli, hugged her shoulders, and said gently, "Don't let your imagination run wild, but I don't want you to covet temporary pleasure and delay your progress in cultivation." What temporary pleasure? Shiluli didn't know what to say, so she simply turned her back and said coldly, "My husband, go to bed early, Lily is going to went to meditation." Okay. Luo Yan pretended to be indifferent, posed with 5 hearts facing the sky, and meditated next to Shiluli's body. Shiluli stared at him in a daze, and suddenly she shed tears silently. She stretched out her sleeve to wipe her tears, but the more she wiped, the more tears she shed, until Luo Yan was awakened from his trance. Looking at Mishi crying, he hugged her with heartache. "What's wrong, Luli? Did you miss your master?" I don't know." Shiluli was still wiping her tears. I. She stuttered for a long time before she said, as if she had lost her soul. "After my father left, I suddenly realized that the carefree and happy life I had for so many years was actually just a flower in the mirror and a moon in the water. It would suddenly collapse and disappear at some point. Luo Yan, I'm a little scared. I'm afraid that one day in the future, when I come to my senses, I will be alone," she said in tears and hugged Luo Yan tightly. Luo Yan could only hug her back, thinking that at this time, should he swear that he would stay by her side forever? Wait, this can't be done. Swearing to Longhu was to brush up the synchronization value of the persistent character, and it was done out of necessity to maintain his identity. If he swore to Shiluli at this time, wouldn't he become a despicable person who chose to lie decisively just to make a girl happy? Luo Yan. Shiluli begged in a crying voice, "You will always be with me, right? You won't leave me like my father." Her eyes were red and swollen, tears welled up in her eyes, she looked pitiful, her body was still shaking slightly, like a small animal about to be abandoned. She looked at him eagerly, so Luo Yan couldn't resist it, so he closed his eyes, gritted his teeth, made up his mind, and said resignedly, "Luli, don't worry, I won't leave you." As soon as the voice fell, Shiluli, with tears on her face, kissed him. Chapter 534 Lucky Wife Shiluli. The next morning, Luo Yan lay on the bed with lifeless eyes. Because Mishi seemed to have given up, posing as if she was ready to be picked by you, intending to give everything to Luo Yan. "If you dare to ask, I dare to give it to you." But Luo Yan really didn't dare to ask. Even if you don't mention things like moral responsibility, you have to think about the Kunlun mirror and the Kingping sword are still watching. "I'm a spy, not an actor. Why should I film it on the spot for you to see? Even if I am going to do it in the future, I have to throw the Kingping sword out of the room first, and then let the Kunlun mirror transform and roll out. Of course, I certainly can't take out the mirror and the sword in front of Shiluli now, so nothing can happen." Fortunately, Shiluli also has a half understanding of this, and she doesn't even know how to undress. She shyly kissed Luo Yan for a long time, but kissed herself so hard that she couldn't breathe, and finally she fell asleep leaning on her. Luo Yan also held her and dared not move, fearing that he would continue to linger after waking her up. He could only maintain the meditation posture silently, repeatedly practicing the breathing and refining technique, practicing the great circulation, and repeatedly suppressing the rising thoughts. After breathing and refining the ki for a whole night, his cultivation was actually slightly improved, which was really outrageous. Who said that women only affect the speed of cultivation? The next morning, after Shiluli got out of bed, changed clothes, and went out, Luo Yan opened his eyes carefully, and then lay back on the bed tiredly. "I am tired and stronger, but is it all worth it? My husband is awake." Shiluli came in from outside with a small bowl. "I made breakfast for you." When she said this, she was still calm, completely different from the energetic young girl before. However, compared with the period when Elder Sheeding just passed away, she was dazed or silent at any time, and now she has become more human. I made some porridge. She came to Luoyan's bedside and stirred it gently with a spoon. Try it. Luoyan was not embarrassed. Why should he be polite to his wife? He stretched his head over and took a sip. It's so delicious. Are there scallops and dried shrimps? No, they are mushrooms. She only shook her head and wanted to continue feeding him. Luoyan took over. I'd better do it myself. While he was sipping the porridge, he was impressed by Shilili's virtue, and suddenly thought of Zhu Yinglian. Sisters, you learn well. See how much she is a wife. Of course, he only dared to think about this in his heart. If there really came such a day, I'm afraid he would be scared to pee and run away at the first time. Luoyan finished his porridge, and Shilili took the bowl and spoon away and washed them with magic. After she put them away, she said, I'm going to found a market in the afternoon to buy materials for sword making. Can my husband accompany me? Of course. It was rare to see Mishi in better spirits, so Luoyan naturally wouldn't refuse her face, so he smiled and agreed. In the afternoon, the two of them went to found market for a few hours. Shilili held Luoyan's arm the whole time and bargained with some material buyers. Hey, junior sister Luli? A voice suddenly sounded behind them. The two turned around and saw that it was senior sister Billion from Shendon Pavilion, who was also shopping with a few junior sisters. Senior sister Billion. Shilili nodded slightly. I came here to buy some minerals. I also came to buy spiritual medicine. Billion and Luoyan nodded and smiled, as if to say hello, and then looked at Shilili and said, Junior sister, after you got married, your temperament is different from before. Really? Shilili also smiled, without explaining anything too much. After exchanging a few pleasantries, the two said goodbye to each other and left. Eileen turned around and sighed with her fellow sisters. Although her father recently passed away, she has a loving partner by her side. I wonder if junior sister Lily is lucky or unlucky. I think it's mostly luck. One of the sisters spoke frankly. Elder Sheeding doesn't have a second-grade golden elixir, so how could his future potential be as limitless as that of true man Jing Yun? Don't compare like that. Eileen quickly scolded her. Can you just bring that up? If true man Jing Yun hears it, don't blame me for disregarding the feelings of my fellow disciples. The sister knew she had said something wrong, so she quickly made amends. Good senior sister, I got it wrong. That's not what I meant. I just admire true man Jing Yun's youth and potential. I heard that when he first entered the sect, no elder was willing to accept him. It was only after senior sister Lily struck up a conversation with him that he caught the attention of Elder Shidin, who then accepted him into the Tiangong workshop. I just feel a little envious. Why didn't I go to lectures everywhere so that I could run into Master Jim Loon? Maybe he is in our Shendon Pavilion now. Wow, I didn't expect you to have the idea of hitting on a married man. Billion smiled and spit at her. You are so fickle. That's right. Another junior sister next to her said, even if he entered our Shendon Pavilion, Master Jim Loon still liked our senior sister Billion, don't you think so? Billion heard this and naturally refused to give up. She quarreled with them, but she secretly sighed in her heart. Putting aside the matter of Elder Shidin, Shilili is indeed very lucky. Who doesn't want a husband like Master Jim Loon? Among the younger generation of righteous cultivators, I'm afraid that only the Phoenix Fairy Zhu Yinlian, who married Master Chamberlain of Cunning, is not inferior to Shilili in this regard. Thinking of everyone's idol Qiu Chang Tian, Eileen suddenly said inexplicably, who do you think is better, this Master Jim Loon or Master Chamberlain of Cunning? The junior sisters looked at each other, and after a while someone said, there is no comparison. Master Chamberlain is a first-grade golden elixir. He is one level lower than Master Jim Loon. I'm talking about personality. Eileen explained quickly, as a male cultivator, you know. The junior sisters pondered for a moment, and then each said, Master Jim Loon. Master Jim Loon, right. I choose Master Jim Loon too. Indeed. Eileen said thoughtfully, Master Jim Loon is from Penglai after all, it's not that reason. A junior sister said with a smile, Master Changan has been protected by countless genius halos since he entered the sect. Not only did he become a disciple of the headmaster, but he was also admired by countless fellow disciples. Although he has a gentle temperament, he still gives people a feeling of being unattainable and someone they can only look up to. Master Jim Loon is different. His initial status was similar to ours, and he also rose from mediocrity through unremitting efforts. If I had to choose, I would of course prefer such a story. The other junior sisters all agreed, and Billion couldn't help but sigh. Now that you mention it, I also find it incredible. They are both promising new Jindan masters, but they have completely different rise experiences, and they all formed Taoist partners at an early age. What do you think? Should I also observe those new male disciples to see if there is the next Changzheng or Master Jingdun? Chapter 535 Self-Regulation Shiluli. The next morning, Luo Yan lay on the bed with lifeless eyes. Yuan Yan was still there. Miss, you must have been really possessed last night. Not only did she refuse to went to meditation, but she also stayed in his arms all night and refused to leave. Sometimes she cried and was sad. Sometimes she took the initiative to ask for kisses and hugs, as if she was schizophrenic. Luo Yan had to be close to her and comfort her softly. Sometimes he reluctantly refused and persuaded her kindly. The description of reluctantly refused was a bit exaggerated, as if the genders were reversed, but it was indeed true. Because Miss, she seemed to have given up, posing as if she was ready to be picked by you, intending to give everything to Luo Yan. If you dare to ask, I dare to give it. But Luo Yan really didn't dare to ask. Even if you don't mention things like moral responsibility, you have to think about the Kunlun Mirror Kingping sword still watching. I'm a spy, not an actor. Why should I show it to you live? Even if it was going to happen in the future, he had to throw the Kingping sword out of the room first, and then let the Kunlun mirror transform and roll out. Of course, he certainly couldn't take out the mirror and the sword in front of Shiluli, so nothing could happen. Fortunately, Shiluli knew only half of this, and shyly kissed Luo Yan for a long time, but he kissed himself so hard that he couldn't breathe, and finally he fell asleep leaning on him. Luo Yan also hugged her and didn't dare to move, for fear of waking her up and continuing to be cuddly, so he could only maintain the meditation posture silently, repeatedly running the breathing and refining technique, practicing the great circulation, and repeatedly suppressing the rising thoughts. In this way, breathing and refining Qi for a whole night, his cultivation was actually slightly improved, which was outrageous. Who said that women only affect the speed of cultivation? The next morning, after Shiluli got out of bed, changed clothes, and went out, Luo Yan carefully opened his eyes, and then lay back on the bed tiredly. I am tired and stronger, but is it all worth it? My husband is awake. Shiluli came in from outside with a small bowl in her hand. I made breakfast for you. When she said this, she was still calm and composed, completely different from the energetic young girl before. However, compared with the period when Elder Shiding just passed away, when she was always dazed or silent, now she has become more human. I made some porridge. She came to Luo Yan's bed and stirred it gently with a spoon. Try it. Luo Yan was not embarrassed. Why should he be polite to his wife? He stretched his head over and took a sip. It's so delicious. Did you add scallops and shrimps? Wrong, it's mushrooms. Shiluli shook her head and wanted to continue feeding him, but Luo Yan took over. I'll do it myself. While he was sipping the porridge, he was impressed by Shiluli's virtue, and suddenly thought of Zhu Yindayan. Sisters, you learn well. See how Mishi is a wife. Of course, he only dared to think about this in his heart. If such a day really came, I'm afraid he would have peed himself and fled immediately. Luo Yan finished his porridge, and Shiluli took the bowl and spoon away and washed them with magic. She put them away and heard her say, I'm going to found a market in the afternoon to buy sword-making materials. Can my husband accompany me? Of course. It was rare to see Mishi in better spirits, so Luo Yan naturally wouldn't refuse her face, so he smiled and agreed. In the afternoon, the two went to found market for a few hours. Shiluli held Luo Yan's arm the whole time and bargained with some material buyers. Hey, junior sister Luli? A voice suddenly sounded behind them. The two turned around and found that it was senior sister Billion from Shendan Pavilion, who was also shopping with a few junior sisters. Senior sister Billion. Shiluli nodded slightly. I came here to buy some minerals. I also came to buy spiritual medicine. Billion and Luo Yan nodded and smiled, as if to say hello, and then looked at Shiluli and said, Junior sister, after you got married, your temperament is different from before. Really? Shiluli also smiled, without explaining anything too much. After exchanging a few pleasantries, the two said goodbye to each other and left. Wileen turned around and sighed with her fellow sisters. Although her father recently passed away, she has a loving partner by her side. I wonder if junior sister Lily is lucky or unlucky. I think it's mostly luck. One of the sisters spoke frankly. Elder Shiding doesn't have a second-grade golden elixir, so how could his future potential be as limitless as that of true man Jing Yun? Don't compare like that. Wileen quickly scolded her. Can you just bring that up? If true man Jing Yun hears it, don't blame me for disregarding the feelings of my fellow disciples. The sister knew she had said something wrong, so she quickly made amends. Good senior sister, I got it wrong. That's not what I meant. I just admire true man Jin Yoon's youth and potential. I heard that when he first entered the sect, no welder was willing to accept him. It was only after senior sister Liu Li struck up a conversation with him that he caught the attention of Elder Shidin, who then accepted him into the Tiangong workshop. I just feel a little envious. Why didn't I go to lectures everywhere so that I could run into Master Jin Yoon? Maybe he is in our Shendon pavilion now. Wow, I didn't expect you to have the idea of hitting on a married man. Billion smiled and spit at her. You are so fickle. That's right. Another junior sister next to her said, even if he entered our Shendon pavilion, Master Jin Yoon still liked our senior sister Billion, don't you think so? Billion heard this and naturally refused to give up. She quarreled with them, but she secretly sighed in her heart. Putting aside the matter of Elder Shidin, Shili is indeed very lucky. Who doesn't want a husband like Master Jin Yoon? Among the younger generation of righteous cultivators, I'm afraid that only the Phoenix Fairies Yu Yin Lian, who married Master Chamberlain of Cunning, is not inferior to Shili in this regard. Thinking of everyone's idol Qiu Chang Tian, Weilin suddenly said inexplicably, who do you think is better, this Master Jin Yoon or Master Chamberlain of Cunning? The junior sisters looked at each other, and after a while someone said, there is no comparison. Master Chamberlain is a first-grade golden elixir. He is one level lower than Master Jin Yoon. I'm talking about personality. Weilin explained quickly, as a male cultivator, you know. The junior sisters pondered for a moment, and then each said, Master Jin Yoon. Master Jin Yoon, right. I choose Master Jin Yoon too. Indeed. Weilin said thoughtfully, Master Jin Yoon is from Penglai after all, it's not that reason. A junior sister said with a smile, Master Changan has been protected by countless genius halos since he entered the sect. Not only did he become a disciple of the headmaster, but he was also admired by countless fellow disciples. Although he has a gentle temperament, he still gives people a feeling of being unattainable and someone they can only look up to. Master Jin Yoon is different. His initial status was similar to ours, and he also rose from mediocrity through unremitting efforts. If I have to choose, of course I prefer stories like this. The other junior sisters agreed, and Billion couldn't help but sigh. Now that you mention it, I find it incredible they are both promising new Jindan masters, but they have completely different rise experiences, and they both became Taoist partners early on. What do you think? Can I also find those new male disciples to observe and see if there is the next Changzheng or Master Jin Yoon? Tender is a banned word, but sticky and tie a knot. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Mundo Fanfic Novelers, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelers. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 536. You'll be the leader of the 6 paths. That night, it was another sleepless night. Simply put, it was Shilili who tossed and turned in her husband's arms, and it was Luoyan who tossed and turned while holding his wife. The newlywed wife, Xiao Luli, still wanted to stick to Luoyan's arms as a little baby, otherwise she would not obediently enter the state of meditation and breathe to refine her ki. Luoyan's meat was in front of her, but she didn't dare to eat it, and she was greedy if she didn't eat it. She had to calm down and suppress her lustful thoughts. She was really miserable and couldn't fall asleep. It was unbearable. Jing. I want to reload the file. I was just waiting for you to say that. Kumlin Jing smiled coldly in his heart, and responded obediently on his face. Okay, which file to reload? Wait on Liu. Luoyan replied, I want to see what the demon cult is doing again. Point 4. Shipping mounting, Tongshuan Gate. Character identity. Wait on Liu. Mirror flower water moon template overwritten, in the process of time and space shuttle. Because he finally got the news about the Hell Road, Wei Dongliu was too lazy to go out these days. He simply stayed in the Tongshuan Men station for a long time, watching Jingmo Envy train his 2 apprentices. Thinking carefully, the original purpose of accepting apprentices was to find a reasonable identity, and later he could use their network of contacts to search for traces of the Hell Road. Unexpectedly, the apprentices have not yet developed, and the Hell Road came to the door first. At this point, of course, it is impossible to give up the 2 apprentices. Maybe they will come in handy in the future. Thinking of this, Wei Dongliu called the 2 disciples to test their cultivation. Is the Sea of Qi full? Wei Dongliu asked majestically, have you refined the medicinal power? Guo Jin and Wang Jun nodded one after another, indicating that they had entered the marrow washing stage. The most lacking thing on the side of the demon cult is the stuff of forcing growth. Last time I went to the temple fair, I asked Jiangmo Envy to find the Lingzhu mountain sect of the Fanxingdu and bought a secret medicine called Ganlanzhua. This secret medicine is rich in pure spiritual energy. Taking it can quickly replenish the consumed true essence and regenerate bones and flesh. If the cultivator himself is in the key refining stage and it is the first time to fill the key, then the remaining time of key refining can be quickly shortened. There are 3 ways to speed up the next marrow washing stage. First, blood pool marrow washing, but the blood pool requires the blood of Yinglong, which is in the Shushan locking demon tower, and it is more troublesome to bring it out. Second, the pure Yuan Qi pill. Due to the long time interval, the pure Yuan Qi pill in his hand was given to Shi Luli, and he didn't know where to get it for the time being. Third, the body refining secret technique. In the 3-island treasure ship secret realm, Luo Yan once obtained the Longqiu 100 forms song left by the ancient witch clan. Practicing this bodybuilding secret technique can not only make the body stronger, but also accelerate the removal of turbid air in the marrow cavity. This is it. Wei Dongliu was too lazy to look for the blood of Yinglong or the pure vital energy pill, so he recited the Longqiu Beiying song and asked his 2 apprentices to memorize it carefully and practice it on their own. Fish and Yaksha listened quietly not far away, thinking, isn't this the bodybuilding secret technique of the ancient witch clan? Oh, after all, the master is the Avitai demon lord of hell, and his actual age is unknown. It is normal for him to know the secrets of the ancient witch clan. Jianglin is not an ignorant person, so he naturally recognizes that this Longqiu Beiying song is a kind of bodybuilding secret technique. Although she has no interest in the bodybuilding technique, she still secretly memorized it and planned to go back and study it carefully. It's unfortunate to say, Wei Dongliu supported her in front of her master that day. Although it was said that he saved her life in a roundabout way, it also made her offend her master to death. Although the Tianmo Dodo has not been officially announced, Jiangmo was actually no different from a renegade disciple, and the subsequent skills can't be obtained through formal means. There is no other way, I can only use heavy punches. After killing senior sister Ai's Kinzi last time, I looted the Dan forming technique from her, which opened up a new idea for Witch Jiang. If the master doesn't give it to me, he must give it to other sisters, right? If I kill all the sisters, won't I be able to get the technique? Witch Jiang was complacent with her quick wit. As for how to kill those sisters who have higher cultivation than her, she naturally has to rely on my handsome and invincible demon lord Wei Doyowei. After Wei Dongliu finished teaching all the Shixi level techniques, she said delicately, you have too few people in the Wanfei Tongshuan sect. Can you give me a guest official to do it? Guest official? Are you worthy of it when you haven't formed a dam yet? You were a concubine at best. Wei Dongliu said lazily. Okay, if someone attacks our sect's headquarters at the time, you, as a guest official, need to be the first to go. Witch Jiang frowned. If the Tongshuan sect's headquarters where the old thief Wei is stationed is attacked, the other party must be a person with profound cultivation. How can I beat him? Thinking of this, she wanted to retreat a little, but she said stubbornly, of course no problem. I believe that Senior Yaksha will not stand idly by. I will just cooperate with Senior Yaksha from behind. Little human kid. Flying Yaksha deliberately grinned and licked his lips with a scarlet tongue. If they come to kill you, I will not save you. Witch Jiang felt that her thoughts were seen through, and said embarrassedly, of course I don't need Senior Yaksha to save me. If I don't even have this little self-protection ability, why should I be a guest official of Tongshuan sect? In that case, then you will be the guest official. Wei Dongliu made the decision. After officially getting the position of guest official, Jiangmo's face finally showed a little more joy. After all, the reason why she made this request was not that she really wanted to be a senior of the sect, but just wanted to hug Wei Mojun's thighs tighter. If Wei Mojun felt that she had not yet formed the elixir and her strength was low, and did not agree to give up the position of guest official, then Jiangmo could only sacrifice her beauty and retrieve to the position of concubine. After all, being the woman of the demon lord is better than being a woman killed by the master. Fortunately, the demon lord still values me very much, she fantasized happily. Wei Dongliu watched coldly and was about to say a few words to interrupt her dream, but suddenly she felt a slight heat on the side of her thigh. She took out the storage bag hanging on her waist and close to her thigh, and took out the jade slip given by Taoist Luo at the Hell Road, and confirmed that it was indeed this thing that was heating and vibrating. If an external speaker function is added, it is undoubtedly the mobile phone of this cultivation world. The technology of my Hellroad is indeed the best in the world. After probing his consciousness into the jade slip, Wei Dongliu read the message sent by Taoist Luo. Number 9, quickly go to the ancient south platform of Mount Watai to attend the internal meeting of the Immortal Duo. We have made arrangements. At the meeting, someone will propose that you serve as the leader of the Immortal Duo. Just accept it. This is the first step to becoming the co-leader of the 6 paths. Wei Dongliu. So you really plan to use me as a pawn, right? Doyojing, Fishin Yaksha. He pondered for a long time, stood up and said, I have something to go out, you two come with me. Chapter 537 The Immortal has decided. Tongxuan sect was once the leader of the Mortal Duo in Mount Watai. In other words, it was the leader of the Mortal Duo, similar to the Ziwi lineage of Cunning, the Emma lineage of Shushan, and so on. Unfortunately, about 4,000 years ago, Tongxuan sect suffered a catastrophe. Almost everyone was killed and died plainly. Without going into the specific reasons, it can be seen from here that the struggle within the Demon Duo is far more bloody than that of the Orthodox Church, and there is basically no possibility of a peaceful handover. After all, the unexpectedness of cultivating immortals is one of the greatest. A kid who used to be a waste may suddenly get a rare treasure or an old grandfather one day, and then start to don't bully the poor young man. Who can tolerate this? For the demon cult, cutting the grass and eradicating the roots is a very skilled and natural thing, so that in the next 4,000 years, no successor to the Tongxuan sect has appeared, but there are a lot of imposters who are hot dogs, which shows that the Tongxuan sect's Taoism is probably cut off. Until the appearance of Wei Dongliu. At first, his Wanfair Tongxuan sect did not attract much attention. After all, it was hidden deep in the hinterland of Shipping Mountain. Apart from the sect master, there were only a few cats and dogs. As Wei Dongliu frequently went out and was active in southern Xinjiang with Wen Yang, Long Xiaoqi, Gilai and others, the name of Wei the Great Demon Lord gradually spread in a small area. Perhaps it was a coincidence, or it could be a conspiracy. This name finally reached the ears of several bigwigs of Fanxing Duo. Wei Dongliu brought Jianglin and Fishin Yaksha to the ancient platform of Nanda Peak. Someone flew up on a sword from a distance and came to stop the 3 people. Stop. No idle people are allowed to pass in front. Hey, is it you? Wei Dongliu stood with his hands behind his back. The strange cultivator stared at Wei Dongliu for a moment, then suddenly stepped back and bowed and said, it turned out to be Sect Master Wei. Please wait here for a while. I will ask the Sect Master for instructions. The monk quickly turned his sword around and left. Wei Dongliu stared at his back and thought to himself, has this person seen me before? No, he just looked at me carefully for a few seconds. He should be trying to identify my facial features. That's right, this person definitely doesn't know me, but he has probably seen my portrait somewhere, so he is so serious. Fellow Taoist Wei. Which Jiang also reminded, these mortals are not completely ignorant of you, please be careful. Sure enough, not long after, the strange monk approached again on his sword and said respectfully, Master Wei, please come down for a chat. Wei Dongliu led his men to land on the ancient south terrace, and his eyes quickly swept around. He saw that the surrounding cultivators were roughly divided into 3 groups, each led by a beautiful woman in palace dress, a bearded man, and a thin old man with a crutch. Before leaving, Wei Dongliu naturally asked Jiang Mo Envy in detail. Nowadays, there are no less than 500 sects and factions in the Watai Mountain Mortal Duo, large and small, belonging to a very loose alliance. However, there are only 3 major sects that can really have a say and can attract other sects to gather. They are the Lingxiu Mountain sect of the woman in palace dress, the Yunxiu Mountain sect of the sturdy man, and the Zhuyu Mountain sect of the thin old man. Not only because these 3 sects are the most powerful, but also because only their sect masters can have a say in front of the sect guarding a mortal behind the Mortal Duo. I didn't expect that the leader of the Tongxuan sect looks so young. The woman in palace dress said with a smile, and her attitude towards Wei Dongliu seemed quite friendly. The bearded man crossed his arms and said disdainfully, he is unknown, and we don't know how good his skills are. Master Li, please be patient. The thin old man said slowly, anyone who can subdue a ferocious creature like the flying yaksha cannot be an ordinary person. The eyes of the 3 sect leaders were simultaneously cast on the flying yaksha behind Wei Dongliu. This yaksha had a green face and fangs, a fierce look in his eyes, and a turbid yellow light in his eyes. It was obvious that he had the qualifications to become a drought demon, which was equivalent to the great perfection of the nascent soul realm, and he was only one step away from becoming an immortal. Although this flying yaksha that was about to become a drought demon basically couldn't fight with everyone, otherwise the excessive leakage of his breath would bring about a heavenly calamity. But it is well known that nuclear weapons do not lose their deterrent power just because they cannot be used easily. Even if a child is carrying a flying yaksha, who can guarantee that he will not suddenly go crazy in the next second and forcibly drive the flying yaksha and everyone else to lose? Therefore, no matter how dissatisfied the bearded man was, he could only snort coldly and stop provoking. "Master Wei, let me introduce you." The woman in palace dress walked up to his side and said with a smile, "This bearded Taoist friend is the leader of the North Peak Yunxiu Mounting, Li." Li reluctantly saluted, but ignored him. This Taoist friend with a mature temperament is the leader of the West Peak Yuzui Mounting, Zhao. The one behind Taoist friend Wei, is Shi Jianglin, the little witch of the heavenly demon sect. The old man Zhao said calmly, leaning on the dragon-headed cane, "I have seen the little demon Aizenzi before, and I thought that if he could form a pill, he would become a great man. I didn't expect that he would die in your hands. The heavenly demon sect is really full of talented people." Jianglin smiled politely and did not answer. According to the custom of the demon sect monks, Zhao's words actually did not have any other meaning. Jianglin's senior sister Aizenzi, although she had a bad temper and was mean, her talent for cultivation was not low, and she was also an expert in managing the sect's mundane affairs, which was why she was evaluated so highly by Zhao. As for the fact that Aizenzi was killed by Jianglin, that was the internal affairs of the heavenly demon sect. What did it have to do with Zhao? Therefore, it was just a pure sigh. As for me, I'm Zurian, the head of Lingsu Mounting. The woman in palace dress introduced herself at last, and then smiled. "It's rude to say. We're both disciples of the mortal sect, but we have only met now. It's really a pity that we didn't meet until now." Her attitude was so humble that Li was even more unhappy. "You were a dignified nascent soul cultivator, the head of the sect, but you actually took the initiative to curry favor with a little-known stranger cultivator. Isn't it a loss of face?" Zhao still had a blank expression on his face, and he was calm and composed, and his key cultivation skills were very deep. Wei Dongliu and Zurian exchanged a few pleasantries and became familiar with each other, but his mind was turning over a lot of thoughts. Among the three sect leaders present, who is the member of the Hell Realm? Sect leaders Yu was the most enthusiastic towards me and seemed to be the most suspicious. Sect leader Li was obviously hostile, but could he be doing the opposite? The suspicion is not small. Sect leader Zhao was rather cold and cautious, but maybe it was to avoid my suspicion. There was no way to rule out suspicion. Just when Wei Dongliu was absent-minded, Zurian exchanged glances with the other two, and suddenly asked with a smile, "Since sect leader Wei is the leader of the Wanfei Tongshuan sect, I wonder what the relationship is between your sect and the Tongshuan sect thousands of years ago?" Wei Dongliu pondered for a while and replied, "The tradition of our sect is inherited from the ancient Jiri Zhao's elder Wanfei Tongshuan. As for the Tongshuan sect that sect leaders you mentioned, it has been lost after all. I really don't know what its tradition is and what its origin is with our sect. Then I'll take the liberty to ask." Zurian narrowed her eyes and smiled, "Is your sect's key refining technique called the Sutra of Eliminating Demons and Separating Clear and Turbid Spirits?" Wei Dongliu's mind turned slightly, and he nodded, "Yes. That's it." Zurian clapped his hands and smiled, "Although outsiders basically don't know, we have been through it know clearly. The Tongshuan sect 4,000 years ago, its key refining technique is called the Sutra of Eliminating Demons and Turbid Spirits, which allows its disciples to easily drive a large amount of turbid air. The power of practicing sinister magic is several times that of other monks. Of course, the more turbid air is driven, the greater the probability of backlash. But it is said that the key refining technique of Tongshuan sect is not perfect. The complete version is called the Sutra of Eliminating Demons and Separating the Clear and Turbid Ki, which can eliminate the hidden dangers of turbid Ki." At this point, Zurian paused and suddenly said, "I wonder if Sect Master Wei is interested in recreating the glory of the former Tongshuan sect and continuing to lead the heroes of the Fanshindo." Wei Dongliu was mentally prepared and was not surprised at this time. He asked back, "Is this the intention of your Lingsu Mounting, or the common intention of your three sects?" "Neither." Zurian smiled and said, "This is the intention of the immortal." Chapter 538 This child must not be kept. Zurian's light words silenced Wei Dongliu. "What, the immortal has already decided?" How can I, an ordinary head of the Wanfei Tongshuan sect, suddenly become the leader of the mortal duo? I haven't even seen the face of the immortal who guards the sect. Of course, calling that immortal the immortal who guards the sect is not very accurate, because although he is a Taoist immortal, he has been obsessed with Buddhism for many years and has long stopped caring about the affairs of the mortal duo, otherwise the mortal duo would not have fallen into what it is now. For example, it is like Jia in Nine-Guru Mansion in Dream of Red Mansions, a typical example of having ability but not willing to take responsibility. If this is the case, then the immortal decided that you will be the leader of the mortal duo is obviously not in line with common sense. Unless, the immortal is a traitor in the Hell Duo. No, there can only be one immortal in the Hell Duo, that old sinister Taoist duo. With the opponent's chess method of the world as a chessboard and all living beings are chess pieces, it is unlikely that you will cooperate with another immortal on an equal footing, unless it is a relationship of mutual benefit. So, this immortal who was born in Taoism but is obsessed with Buddhism is actually pretending. Damn it. Even immortals have started to act. Can this super-evolutionary world still be better? With thousands of thoughts turning in his mind, Wei Dongliu calmly used words to deal with Zhu Ryan. Jingmunu was acting obediently beside him, not saying a word, but in fact her ears were already perked up, patiently memorizing their conversation. Only the flying night demon lazily hunched his back with his hands hanging down, looking extremely bored. Wei Dongliu's words were flawless, but he refused to directly agree to be the leader of the mortal duo, which makes Zhu Ryan a little secretly annoyed. To be honest, it is normal to be vigilant, but any serious cultivator who has survived and made a name for himself in the six paths will not believe in such a good thing that falls from the sky. However, if it were an ordinary person, even if they were on guard, they would still be cautious and test carefully. And how could Wei Dongliu look trembling at all? He was clearly confident. Zhu Ryan's mind moved slightly, and suddenly she heard a voice in her ear. She was stunned for a moment, then looked at Li Jian Zhaohe, put away her smile and said, "The immortal has called. Master Wei, two Taoist friends, let's go." Wei Dongliu immediately became alert. The immortal has called? Then he quickly put his mind at ease. It seems that this is arranged by the Hell Road again, and the possibility of encountering unpredictable dangers is not high. Let's take a step back and say that if something unexpected really happened, the worst that can happen is to let a Jin teleport away and completely abandon Wei Dongliu's character. Anyway, I already know that the Hell Road is stationed in the depths of hell. If you make a mistake and let Wei Dongliu die, Qiu Cheng Tian will lead the Orthodox army to your doorstep in the next second. After thinking clearly about his retreat, Wei Dongliu was calm and leisurely, following Zhu Ryan forward calmly, which made Li Jian Zhaohe look at him with new eyes. No matter how strong this Wei sect leader is, at least this fearless demeanor is really hard to underestimate. If it were an ordinary cultivator, he would be scared out of his wits if he was suddenly summoned by a strange immortal. You must know that in front of an immortal, your opponent is all in the immortal's mind, especially the kind of immortal with capricious moods. If you don't go well, your soul will fly away. Why isn't he afraid? Could it be that, not only Li Jian and Zhaohe were puzzled, Jinglin and Fish and Yaksha were also secretly frightened. It was just that seeing Wei Dongliu so calm, they felt a little strangely relieved. This Wei Demon Lord should have some hidden cards, right? Everyone flew up on the edge of the cliff and soon flew to Thongtai Peak. This peak is towering into the clouds, with snow on the top all year round, piles of rocks, and bare vegetation. There are often strong winds, making it almost impossible to open your eyes. Under the shadow of a big rock, everyone saw an old man sitting cross-legged on the ground. The old man was naked from the waist up, wearing only a pair of pants on his lower body. He was extremely thin and had no flesh at all. In many places, the bones covered by the skin were even exposed. It was like a stick insect. Although the old man looked funny, the three leaders of the Fanxing duo did not dare to neglect him at all. They all praised him respectfully and said, "I wish that Blood Sea Ancestor to achieve great success in his magic soon." The Blood Sea Ancestor slowly opened his eyes fell on Wei Dongliu, and asked, "Are you the headmaster of the Wanfei Tongshuan sect?" As soon as the voice fell, there was a murderous aura rushing into the sky, so that everyone changed their faces. Jingmunu even subconsciously hid behind Wei Dongliu. The danger instinct was frantically warning her, ready to run away at any time. Wei Dongliu was the first to bear the brunt. Even though he had great perseverance, wisdom and courage, he was frightened for a moment when he was surrounded by the murderous aura of the Blood Sea Ancestor. But he soon realized that if this immortal wanted to kill him, why would he scare him in advance? It was nothing more than a test of his courage. With such certainty in his heart, he was naturally not afraid at all, and just nodded. Yes. Not bad. The Bloodsea ancestor really praised, "You are the first one who can keep your face calm for the first time under my Bloodsea evil. Grandmaster, you are too kind." Wei Dongliu said lightly, thinking that you are far inferior to the soaring dragon power of my old father-in-law in the locking demon tower. The Bloodsea ancestor didn't know what he was thinking, but continued to order, "Please use the key refining technique to show me." Wei Dongliu was silent for a moment, and then he started to operate the eliminating demon upper spirit separation clear turbidity sutra with all his strength. As the demonic energy flowed, his hair quickly turned blood red, and double pupils appeared in his eyeballs, and his whole temperament became evil and wild. The three heads of the sect silently stepped back half a step, thinking that it was indeed a sign of the operation of the demon elimination sutra. This person really inherited the Taoist tradition of Tongshuan sect. Good. Seeing him transformed into the form of a demon king, the Bloodsea patriarch immediately laughed. What a chaotic body, a natural demon. Wei Dongliu remained calm, but he laughed in his heart. As expected of an immortal, he can actually recognize my talent for cultivation. You must be wondering in your heart why I summoned you specifically. The Bloodsea patriarch continued, "Let me ask you first, what do you think of the current mortal duo?" Wei Dongliu was silent for a moment, and replied, "A pile of loose sand. You only know one thing, not the other." The Bloodsea patriarch said slowly, "Separation and reunion is the law of nature." How powerful were the Ninjiri sects in the past? At the time, all the Taoist sects in the world were rivalries, and there was no room for anything else. As a result, in less than 100,000 years, the two sects were destroyed and disintegrated one after another. Later, the mortal duo was unified by the Tongshuan sect, and its reputation surpassed other factions. It once regarded itself as the eldest son of the Jiri sect. In less than 5,000 years, the Tongshuan sect also suffered a disaster of extermination, and the Taoist tradition was almost completely cut off. I have practiced the Buddhist Zen of withering and flourishing for nearly 10,000 years, and I have long seen through the way of the world. Everything is determined by heaven. Withering and flourishing, success or failure, are all false, so I don't intend to interfere in these worldly affairs, but just let them rise and fall. Although the mortal duo is in disarray now, in 10, 100, or 1,000 years, there'll eventually be a sect that will stand out from the survival of the fittest and reintegrate the mortal duo. At this point, the Bloodsea patriarch suddenly showed murderous intent in his eyes and sneered, "That's what I originally thought, but I didn't expect the rise of the three pure ones of the sect to be even faster. In less than 10,000 years, even a first-grade golden elixir has appeared. If we allow Qiu Chain time to successfully form a baby and ascend to heaven, where will our Jiri sect have a place in the future? This child must not be kept." Chapter 539 Three Command Arrows. Wei Dongliu was silent for a while, then said, "Since Qiu Chain time is too threatening, you can get rid of him, but what does it have to do with me?" The Bloodsea patriarch smiled coldly, his expression sinister. The immortal Kisan of the sect protects Qiu Chain time like a treasure, and with the support of Chanmei and Wang Xiang, even if we, the Jiri sect immortals, try to encircle and annihilate him, it may not work. The current situation in the world is similar to the confrontation between the Ninjiri sects in the past. Both sides are eager to get rid of each other, but they dare not bet everything on one throw, lest they suffer heavy losses and the risk of the overthrow of the Taoism. We can only refer to the confrontation between the two armies, the handover of the vanguard, the sitting of the central army, and the standby at the rear, so as to carry out a long-term tug-of-war and wait for the opportunity for a decisive battle. At this point, the Bloodsea patriarch narrowed his eyes, looked at Wei Dongliu and said, "I will not ask about the grade of your golden elixir. But to be able to maintain your breath in the Bloodsea evil, you must be at least above the third-grade golden elixir. If we are in a long-term tug-of-war with the three pure ones of the sect, we must train our backup forces in place, so that they will not have a steady stream of new troops, while we will be in a dilemma of not having enough new troops. This is also that consensus reached by this deity and other Jiri sect immortals. The sect has a grade 1 golden elixir Qiu Chain Tian, and we must have someone from Jiri sect to fight him. In my opinion, none of the young descendants of the Six Paths can compare to you, a natural-born demon seed." Wei Dongliu's eyes twitched. Although the other party was definitely not cursing, why did the term natural-born demon seed sound so much like natural-born cup seed? "Don't doubt that I am lying to you." The Bloodsea patriarch keenly caught the strangeness on his face and immediately added, "In front of so many people, as an immortal from the Jiri Jiao, could I still plot against you? I have no doubt." Wei Dongliu said neither humbly nor arrogantly, "Senior, please feel free to speak." "Humph." The Bloodsea Patriarch said unhappily, "Just listen carefully. As for the Fanshindo, I will make the final decision here, and you will be the leader from now on. If someone wants to challenge your position openly, he must be at least a second-grade golden elixir. If not, then forget it. In addition to the open challenges, there are naturally confrontations in secret. I still have to practice the withered and flourishing Zen and cannot interfere in worldly affairs. Those conspiracies will depend on your own means to overcome them. Of course, I am not an unkind person." He turned over his skinny palm and took out 3 blood-colored arrows, saying, "If you really meet someone you can't deal with, take a small arrow and throw it, and I will kill that person for you." Wei Dongliu was silent for a moment, then he reached out to take the small arrow, but his face showed no expression. The rest of the people present, however, all changed color. The Bloodsea Ancestor was at the Golden Immortal level. What does it mean for a Golden Immortal to attack 3 times? Each time, it was enough to destroy a medium-sized sect. Whether you were a Golden Core or an Essence Soul, under the attack of a Golden Immortal, you will only end up with your body shattered and your soul scattered. What's worse is that the 3 small arrows of Wei Dongliu just correspond to the number of their Lingsu mounting, Yungsu mounting, and Yuzui mounting. In other words, even if the 3 sects united to turn against Wei Dongliu, he could ask the Bloodsea Ancestor to attack and beat all 3 sects into powder. The faces of the 3 sect leaders changed. Fish and Yaksha remained silent, but Jingmonu's face flushed, and she was so excited that she couldn't help it. "This is my Wei Mojin going to be rich." Not only was he appointed by the Immortals as the master of the mortal path, but he also had 3 opportunities to ask the Immortals to take action. In another 10 or 100 years, the Wanfei Tongshuan sect will probably become the top sect in the world of cultivation. Fortunately, I took the initiative to propose to be a guest of the Wanfei Tongshuan sect. Win. Thinking of this, which Jing frowned again, feeling something was wrong. Wait, is the Wanfei Tongshuan sect the powerful one? No, it's obviously my Wei Mojin who is powerful. To put it bluntly, if the Wanfei Tongshuan sect in the future controls the 3 sects of Lingsu mounting, Yungsu mountain and Yuzui mounting, resulting in a large number of Yuning elders coming to join the sect as guest officials, wouldn't the value of my first guest position be greatly diluted? After all, guest officials still have to speak with strength, but concubines are different. As long as you serve Wei Mojin well, won't you have everything you want? Damn it, I was still too obedient to my wife, too stingy with my innocent body, so I slipped and made a mistake, and now I can't make further requests. But think about it carefully, there are still opportunities in the future. Who stipulates that your guest official can't be the head's concubine at the same time? Thinking of this, she couldn't help but feel excited, and wanted to go over and clamp Wei Dongliu and sign the concubine agreement fiercely. Of course, it was just a fantasy. With Jingmo Envy's understanding of Wei Mojun, she knew that if she offered herself to him regardless of the occasion and atmosphere, she would only be slapped away by the other party. Humph, don't be impatient, you still have to take it slowly. As the saying goes, a good woman is afraid of a clinging man. As long as I persevere, I will be able to take down this demon king one day. Wei Dongliu didn't know what the people behind him were thinking. He put away the 3 blood-colored arrows and heard that Bloodsea Ancestor say again, "Did you all hear it? Then retrieve quickly and inform all the monks around. If you are dissatisfied, come to the top of Thongtai Peak to find me to Wagyu." Yes. The 3 masters did not dare to disobey, so they could only nod and leave quickly. Jingmonu and Fatian Yaksha did not dare to stay for long. They followed the 3 people to leave the top of the peak and wandered around waiting. After driving away the idlers, only the Bloodsea Ancestor and Wei Dongliu are left under Longyan. "What means of attack do you have, and show them to me one by one?" The Bloodsea Ancestor continued, "To be the master of the mortal dojo, it is not enough to have a foundation and potential, and the killing skills at hand must also be strong." Wei Dongliu pondered for a moment, then took off the Wangyi Shi Jing sword wrapped with cloth strips and gently stroked the sword. "Okay, the 10,000 Ghosts evil sword. The Bloodsea Ancestor really knows what's good, and he identified it as a sword at a glance. The rank of this sword is just right for your status. As for the Ghost dojo, I will talk to them for you." "Thank you, Ancestor," Wei Dongliu said with a fist. "What other means do you have? Take them all out." The Bloodsea Ancestor urged, "I won't covet anything on you." Wei Dongliu slightly mobilized his true energy, and 3 chubby gold and silkworms flew out of his sleeves, circling and dancing in the air. Golden silkworms. Good. Good. The Bloodsea ancestor was overjoyed. These fierce insects are one of the Taoist traditions of the former beast-taming sect. I didn't expect them to fall into your hands. Since you have these fierce insects, if you carefully cultivate and reproduce them in the future, you will be the co-master of the 6 paths in the future, and you will have the power to compete. Wei Dongliu remained calm, thinking, how come the reaction of the Bloodsea ancestor was exactly the same as what was predicted in the Heldio Jade slip? Could it be that this immortal is really a spy in hell, and is saying these words to hint at me? Chapter 540. The first step to reviving the sect. Apart from the trump card, Wei Dongliu used all his methods one by one. The Bloodsea Patriarch read through them patiently and commented, the rank is quite high, but the number is too small. If the intelligence of these methods of yours is known to others and targeted arrangements are made, you will be in trouble. Wei Dongliu remained silent, thinking that the cards in his hand are exquisite but not complete. How could I not know? It's just that I don't have a master or a sect. All the resources of the skills are obtained by exploration and adventure. It's already very good to guarantee the quality, okay? In the past, when Jirizhao split and destroyed, 500 outer sect immortals gathered in Mount Watai and established the Jirizhao Hunyuan sect, named Hunyuan Wangxibang. The Bloodsea Patriarch said with emotion, time flies, and the Hunyuan sect has been divided and reunited since then. Most of the inheritances were either swallowed up by other sects or lost quietly because of the death of the successors. Nowadays, there are only 3 branch sects left in the Hunyuan sect: Lingxiu Mountain, Yungxiu Mountain and Yuzui Mountain. Their inheritances are not very strong, otherwise they would not be suppressed by the Tianmo and the Ingido in all aspects. Having said that, the Bloodsea Patriarch pondered for a moment, and then said, in the heyday of the Tongshuan sect in the past, it was said to have 60% of the inheritance of the Jirizhao Hunyuan sect. Now that I have appointed you as the head of the Hunyuan sect, and even the patriarch of the entire Fanshindo, your first task is to go to the ruins of the Tongshuan sect to retrieve those inheritances. Wei Dongliu was communicating with the Bloodsea Patriarch inside, while Jianglin was walking around outside, shivering with his arms folded across his chest. After the monks had their marrow washed, not only was their physical fitness greatly enhanced, but they were also immune to all diseases, so it was definitely impossible for them to be cold. The reason why they kept shaking was simply because they were nervous. Although the Bloodsea Patriarch seemed to have no hostility towards Wei Dongliu, and could even be said to be mostly appreciative, which Jing had experienced the dangers of the world and seen all the ugliness of people's hearts. How could you believe that there were people in the world who were nice to you for no reason? She believed that the reason why the Bloodsea Patriarch was so kind to Imogen was that he had other intentions. But what if the other party suddenly turned against her later? The more which Jing thought about it, the more frightened she became. She paced back and forth outside, hating her own danger intuition. Why could it only work on herself but not on Wei Mojin? If Lord Wei died in there, her seemingly safe situation would collapse immediately. She might have to find a place at the end of the world to live in seclusion and pray every day that she would not be discovered and caught by her master. Fishin Yaksha was annoyed by her presence and said unhappily, "Why are you walking around all the time? Aren't you worried?" Jianglin rolled his eyes. "What can happen to Lord Demon?" Fishin Yaksha said disdainfully. "If Lord Avika was so easy to deal with, how could I be humble and serve him like a cow and a horse?" Humph. Jianguich sneered, "If he really got tricked by the immortal, I want to see what you'll do." Fishin Yaksha was too lazy to pay attention to her, but couldn't help muttering in his heart, "If Lord Wei really got tricked, I have to get the handleless locust wood sword on him before the immortal reacts. Otherwise, if I let it fall into the hands of the immortal, wouldn't I just get out of the tiger's den and into the wolf's den? However, it is so difficult to do something under the eyes of the immortals. In addition, the lifespan of immortals is almost infinite. If you meet an immortal who doesn't like to go out, you may not encounter any danger for 10,000 or 20,000 years. Then, won't I be a slave forever?" Thinking of this, even if it has long lost most of the emotions of humans, it still has some unrelieved boredom entangled in its heart. Fortunately, not long after, Wei Dongliu finally came down the mountain calmly, which made the worried Jianglin and Fishin Yaksha feel relieved, and then greeted him enthusiastically. "Doyue. Master." Jianglin just called Doyo and heard the Yaksha call him master, and he immediately bawled in disgust. "Shameless. You're a zombie, why are you pretending to be a personal maid? I should call you if I want to. Is Doyue's trip going well?" Jianguich asked sweetly, with a sincere expression and a very gentle tone. "It's going well." Wei Dongliu said calmly, "Next, I'm going to a place. You wait here first." "Where are you going, fellow Taoist way?" Jiangling responded immediately. She didn't want to stay with Fati and Yasha, who had a dead face. "I'll go with you, so I can help you. Wherever the master goes, I can also serve you." Fati and Yasha hurriedly competed to flatter, not forgetting to glare at Jiangmo envy viciously. "The place I'm going to may be dangerous," Wei Dongliu said slowly. Fati and Yasha's face immediately darkened, although it was originally a green-faced fang, so it couldn't be seen. After all, its current 100% power was sealed at 80% to 90%. If it used too much force, it would easily cause a heavenly calamity. Therefore, it was okay to follow Wei Dongliu to scare people, but if it encountered a situation where it really had to fight, it would be a little restrained, especially when facing some irrational monsters, trap mechanisms, etc. Since Wei Dongliu said this, he suggested that they stay here. Fish and Action naturally understood what he meant. After a moment of silence, he kept silent. Jiangling refused to give up and insisted, "Doorway, although my cultivation is low, I have unique experience in saving my life. Especially when I am in danger, my intuition is the most sensitive. Maybe I can help you." This guest official is not of ours. Although the crisis intuition did not warn, Jiangling now has a very strong sense of crisis about her position in Wei Dongliu's mind. After all, even the immortals of the sect of the Fanxing Duo have already looked at Wei Dongliu differently. When the Wanfei Tongxuan sect has completely strengthened, there will definitely be an endless stream of cultivators coming to join. If I don't take advantage of the fact that there are not many people in the sect and work hard to fill the impression points in Wei Dongliu's mind, it will be too late. Although Wei Dongliu was surprised by Jiangmonu's positive and enterprising attitude, he was very satisfied with her in his heart. Who doesn't like employees who can actively ask for extra work? Now he positioned Jiangmonu as a slightly pretty sect steward, whose main role was to help him look after his two cheap apprentices, guide them in their cultivation, and answer questions, etc. For example, although Yuanzhen and others worshipped under the Ziwili sect master, the Ziwili sect master was too lazy to teach them personally, and just let Qiu Changtai do it for them. To a certain extent, Jiangling played a similar role. But if she wanted to further explore her own value, Wei Dongliu would naturally be happy to see it happen, and he didn't have to promote her and raise her salary. How great! So he let the unhappy Fish and Yaksha wait here, and he took Jiangling on the sword all the way, following the instructions of the Blood Sea ancestor, and flew towards the distant mountain. More than 4,000 years ago, the Tongxuan sect was located on the Yunhegai Peak in the east. With the destruction of the sect, it has become a ruin, and any remaining objects inside have long been looted. But according to the Blood Sea Patriarch, the Tongxuan sect hid all their heritage books in a cave called Loyan Cave near the top of Yunhegai Peak. Now Wei Dongliu has made up his mind. As the head of the Wanfei Tongxuan sect, the head of the Hunyuan sect, and the leader of the Fanxing Duo, he naturally has to go deep into the uninhabited Loyan Cave and take out all the heritage books of the former Tongxuan sect. Not only for his own cultivation, but also to quickly expand the foundation of the Wanfei Tongxuan sect, help himself to take root in the Hunyuan sect, and suppress the other three factions. In the end, the entire power of the Fanxing Duo was controlled in his own hands and became a new generation of demon cult giants. The internal structure of the Fanxing Duo is relatively complex, which is divided into two parts: the subject and the object. The subject is the Hunyuan sect, which was originally formed by the 500 scattered immortals of the outer sect of the Jiao, and is the core of the Fanxing Duo. The object is the cultivators of other unorthodox sects who defected to join the schools created by the Fanxing Duo. In the Hunyuan sect, there are three major schools: Lingxu Mounting, Yungxu Mounting, and Yuzui Mounting. Although everyone is nominally a Hunyuan sect monk, because of different masters, the things they teach are roughly similar in basic aspects, but they have their own characteristics in terms of depth. Similarly, taking Kunlun as an example, the main body of Kunlun is the Taiking sect, that is, the Kunlun monks who stay in the Kunlun mountains, and the object is mainly composed of other Kunlun branch sects founded by some Kunlun masters after leaving Kunlun. For example, the former Chonghe master established the Kunlun Shengxiao sect in Tianmu Mounting, Yangzhou, and its Taoist tradition is Shengxiao Thunder. Similarly, in the main Kunlun Taiking sect, there are countless schools according to different masters. For example, the disciples of Ziwili master of the strongest schools of Taiking sect, and their Taoist tradition is Nine Heavens Kingwei Realm Mantra. Although the disciples of other elders are also Taiking sect monks, they cannot learn this immortal secret method because they do not belong to the school of Ziwili master. Another example is the general outline of Kunlun sword control. Since it is not a traditional inheritance of any school, all Kunlun Tai King sect monks can learn it. The last example is to compare the Mortal Do to a modern enterprise. Then the Hunyuan sect is the headquarters of the enterprise, and the other sects are the labor dispatch of the outsourcing company. As for Lingsu Mounting, Yungsu Mounting, and Yuzhu Mounting, they are the three subsidiaries of the headquarters. Chapter 541. Take all the books from Tongshuan. Yunhai Peak is named because of its extremely high altitude and the vast sea of clouds surrounding it, like an isolated island in the sea. There are a large number of buildings where monks live on the top of the peak, many of which have been destroyed by fighting, and the rest have been weathered away in 4,000 years, with ruins everywhere. Jingmonu looked at the buildings below and had an urge to explore. Although she also knew that these abandoned buildings had been scraped clean by people in the past 4,000 years, she still wanted to go in and search. What if she could find something good? It's like a girl seeing a commercial street. Although she had already made up her mind not to buy anything, she still wanted to go in and have a look. What if she came across something worth buying at a good price? Of course, although she wanted to go down and try her luck, Wei Dongliu obviously had no such plan. Jianglin could only shut up obediently, thinking that there would always be a chance in the long run. According to the instructions of the Bloodsea ancestor, Wei Dongliu quickly reached the edge of the mountain top and found a tall tower there. The tower was empty, without even the most basic furniture. Wei Dongliu came to the top of the tower. The roof here was paved with tiles, and it looked like a bamboo hut from the outside. Looking out from the window on the top floor, Wei Dongliu found that a hole was slowly appearing on the rock wall somewhere below. Obviously, there was an extremely powerful illusion around the Loyan cave, so that from the outside, it was just an ordinary rock wall, without any flaws. But if you look down from the window on the top floor of this high tower, you can just see through the illusion and locate the specific coordinates of the hole. Jingmonu imitated his actions and looked out of the window. Sure enough, she saw the hole appear. It's really interesting, she said in amazement. Ordinary monks are driven by utilitarianism. When they go to the top floor and find that there is nothing, they will definitely turn around and leave without looking back. Who would think of looking down from the window here? Let's go. Wei Dongliu jumped down from the window, stepped on the sword light in the air, and rushed directly to the hole in the rock wall. Jianglin followed closely behind him. The two landed at the entrance of the cave, then cast a lighting spell and walked in. After only 4 or 5 steps, the road ahead was blocked by a rock wall. On the rock wall, there were 4 large characters in a flamboyant style. Chetongshuan. These 4 characters seemed familiar. Wei Dongliu thought about it for a moment and soon remembered that the elder Chetongshuan of Jirizhou had left a similar secret in his suicide note, which was said to have been passed down among each generation of Tongshuan sect masters. Chetongshuan is the first half of the sentence, and the second half is, all methods break the way. Wei Dongliu said slowly. As soon as he finished speaking, the rock wall suddenly disappeared slowly, revealing a cave the size of a person. It turned out to be a voice-controlled door. Wei Dongliu took the lead and entered calmly, while Jingmonu followed closely behind with great interest, and secretly memorized the password that Wei Dongliu had just said. The two walked through the long corridor and entered a simple secret realm. There was a stone hall with a statue standing in the center of the hall, but there was no exit around it. Wei Dongliu immersed his consciousness into the stone statue, and heard a voice around him asking, "What do you want to take? Do you have any Taoist magic?" Wei Dongliu planned to test it first. Let's start with a secret method to refine a demon, and it must be a very powerful demon. Jingmonu's ears immediately pricked up. There is a secret method of the 6 caves of gods and demons in Beiyin. The voice replied, the 6 caves of gods and demons, from the Dengdoluodo mountain in Beiyin, are easily resistant to swords and guns, and are difficult to invade by water and fire. They are immortal and indestructible, but are restrained by the 7 treasures Starlight Brilliant Spirit Lamp. Okay. Without waiting for Jingmonu to speak, Wei Dongliu confirmed directly. The surrounding rock walls suddenly spread out in all directions, revealing a vast world. The stone statue in front suddenly came to life, rolled on the ground, and turned into an evil Taoist. He pinched the Taoist formula and chanted, "North Yindengdoluodo Mounting, 6 caves of ghosts, gods and demons, listen to my command." In an instant, a demonic wind came. Although it seemed to be just a gust of wind, Jingmonu's instinct quickly and frantically warned her. She quickly shouted, "Oya, be careful," and shook out several gods and demons from her sleeves. They were all 8 feet tall, green-faced and fanned evil ghosts, blocking the 2 of them. The demonic wind hit the gods and demons, and immediately several evil-looking, half-real and half-real demon heads appeared, biting the gods and demons all over their bodies. The gods and demons roared wildly and hit around with weapons, but it was like a short knife cutting water and a stick hitting the wind, all of which passed through the demon heads without any force. After a while, these gods and demons with forms were bitten all over their bodies, and black gas was emitted. Suddenly, they cried out together, and then turned into black gas again and drilled into the sleeves of Jingmo. Good guy. Jingmo's eyes lit up, and she realized that these gods and demons of the 6 caves of Bayan were really invulnerable to swords and guns. She used to worship under the fairy of Plymouth, and the Taoist tradition she learned was the secret method of gods and demons with and without forms. Among them, the 36 gods and demons with forms were 8-foot strong men, all of whom had the power to move mountains and cover the world, and they did not retrieve despite several wounds. The 72 gods and demons without forms hit their bodies, were silent, and could kill people in the ghost den. But whether it was gods and demons with forms or gods and demons without forms, their weaknesses were that their bodies were not strong enough. For example, once Zhu Yingyan's great light fire burned, no matter if you had a form or no form, you would die. For example, if your head was cut off by Anzisu's flying sword, you would definitely die. Being difficult to be injured by swords and guns is far from being easy to be afraid of swords and guns in the true sense. Jianglin coveted the secret technique, but she was not stupid enough to ask Wei Donliu to get it for her. She just bravely stepped forward and shouted, "Doorway, please step back. I will block these demons for you." "No need." Wei Donliu pressed her shoulders with his left hand and pulled her behind him. He drew out the 10,000 Ghosts evil sword with his right hand and stabbed forward. The 10,000 Ghosts evil sword pierced into the evil wind, and immediately exerted a pulling force on the demons. However, the demons of the 6 caves of Bayan seemed to have sensed the crisis in advance, and they hid in the evil wind and became invisible. The evil Taoist priest opposite said, "The secret method of the 6 caves of the North Yin, the demons refined can shuttle back and forth between the Qing cave and the world. Any attack methods in the world cannot be effective against the 6 caves of gods and demons. There is only one magic weapon called the 7 Treasures Starlight Brilliant Spirit Lamp, whose light shines on all the worlds. Even if the gods and demons hide in the sky of the 6 caves of the Qin, they can be locked and illuminated by this spirit lamp. It can be called the biggest threat to our sect's Taoist lineage." He kept talking about the advantages and disadvantages of the secret method of the 6 caves of the North Yin, and then began to elaborate on the methods of cultivation, the formulas, the resources needed, etc. without hiding any key details, and explained them completely. However, the Taoist priest taught the method, but his hands were unambiguous, commanding the evil wind to continue to circle around the 2 people, and driving the gods and demons to bite them, as if he was determined to ruin their lives. Wei Dongliu calmly swung his sword, and whenever god or demon appeared next to him, he would force it back with a clean and neat sword, without any signs of exhaustion. Jiangwich's eyes lit up, and she memorized the formula in her mind, planning to refine the Bayan 6 caves god and demon after returning, so as to increase her value in Wei Donliu's heart. Chapter 542. Northern Yin Gods and Demons, Yin Demons and Filth. Wei Dongliu pinched the Do formula lightly, and the Wang Yi Shi Jing sword slashed left and right, repelling the demons that emerged from his body. Rubbish, really rubbish. With his many years of deep experience in fighting, he almost saw through the characteristics of this North Yin 6 caves god and demon at a glance. Its advantage is that the demon head is invisible and intangible, and can be transformed from real to virtual, and can attack or defend. The disadvantage lies in the caster himself. This thing is actually similar to the 72 phaseless gods and demons. It is more suitable for containment and sneak attacks. The power of frontal attack is too weak. When someone cuts with a sword, the demon head must immediately turn from real to virtual to dodge damage, causing the cultivator himself to be exposed on the field. Without any demon head to protect him, who can you cut if you don't cut the opponent at this time? That is, Wei Dongliu wanted the Taoist to tell all the formulas and mental methods, otherwise he would have cut him directly with a sword. Jianglin hid behind Wei Dongliu the whole time, shaking out a demon head from time to time to help him block the sneak attack of the North Yin god and demon. This god and demon is so powerful. Her eyes were almost sparkling. Normally, it was similar to the 72 formless gods and demons. It could be used to hide and then launch sneak attacks. Once discovered by the enemy, it could also flexibly transform from real to fake. It could almost be considered immortal, except for being restrained by the lamp. Who wouldn't want such a useful demon? I want it. I want it, I want it, I want it. She was so excited that she could hardly control herself. She stared at the evil Taoist with burning eyes, hoping that he would say more. After the evil Taoist finished reciting the ritual to summon the demon, he suddenly turned into a stone statue again. The open fields around him also turned back into the original small quiet room. Wei Dongliu was silent for a moment, and asked Kunlun Miram Kingping sword in his mind. How is it? A very clever illusion. Kunlun Mira commented, they made the inheritance of the skills into an illusion, which is much more vivid than any scriptures or oral teaching. It's just that the process of accepting the inheritance is too dangerous. Kingping sword also laughed, if you are not strong enough, it will be difficult to even save your life under the attack of the illusion, not to mention having to distract yourself to memorize the mental formula. Is it very dangerous? Wei Dongliu commented, I think it's average. Isn't it because you didn't listen the whole time, and it was all up to me to record it for you? Kunlun Mira said with a laugh. I just think that after switching to Luoyan's file, with the talent of hearing 1,000 understandings, learning will be more efficient. Wei Dongliu explained righteously, regardless of whether the Miram the sword believed it or not, and turned around and told Jiangmo NV. Have you remembered everything? Remembered. Jianglin said happily. She was born beautiful, and now her eyes were like crescents when she smiled, which gave her a unique charm that spread between her delicate eyebrows. Wei Dongliu originally thought that she was very similar to Shiluli, both of whom were quirky, but now it seems that they are very different. Shiluli was really innocent, but unfortunately, she was hit hard by the death of her master, and she has changed her face and matured quickly. Jianglin knew how lethal her innocence, or to use another old-fashioned word, purity, was to men, and she was also very good at using this female weapon. Seeing Wei Dongliu staring at her, she winked playfully and gave Wei Dongliu a few glances for free. This made Wei Dongliu suddenly miss Shiluli before the revision and evolution, so he sighed slightly and said, I will continue to extract other Taoist methods here. If you want to refine the heavenly demon, you can go out and do your thing now and wait for me to come out. Jiangmo was already impatient to try the power of the North Yin god and demon. She almost agreed subconsciously, but soon stopped her mouth in time and said with a smile, What are you talking about, Brother Wei? Since you promised to follow Brother Dodo, how can you retreat halfway? Well, this is the difference between Jianglin and Shiluli. No matter how mature my Shiluli is, she has become mature in the overall situation, but she can't be as meticulous as Jiangmo in details, using follow instead of follow to secretly express loyalty. This is for fear that she will have any doubt about her. Only a witch who grew up in a dangerous and frightened environment would have such a cautious calculation. Since she was unwilling to leave, Wei Dongliu followed her and said to the stone statue, another powerful attacking method, which must be driven by turbid air. The more the true essence is consumed, the better. As we all know, the attack power of a method that consumes a lot of energy is often very strong, and it is simple and crude. Many cultivators do not like this kind of Taoism, because it is too wasteful of true essence, and there is a risk of backlash if too much turbid air is driven. But for Wei Dongliu, who does not have to worry about turbid air, this kind of Taoism is simply his first choice, without exception. The stone statue rolled on the ground again, and then turned into a majestic middle-aged man in a long robe, saying in a cold voice, This is the filthy technique of the demon, you take it. After speaking, he swung his robe sleeves, and an infinite amount of demonic energy gushed out from it, condensing into a long whip in the air that seemed to have intelligence, and suddenly twisted violently. Jianglin was so scared that he quickly hid behind Wei Dongliu. It should be known that the demon sect monks practiced magic, and they also used a large amount of true essence to drive a small amount of demonic energy, just to prevent the demonic energy from backlashing. A spell like this, which is purely composed of demonic energy, is definitely a superkiller on the battlefield. No matter whether the righteous or demonic monks were whipped like this, the demonic energy would immediately enter their bodies, block their meridians, corrode their minds, and be at the mercy of others. At this time, the surrounding fighting environment has also changed from the original small quiet room to the dim wasteland. Wei Dongliu took a half step back, his hair suddenly turned blood red, and double pupils appeared in his eyes, looking particularly ferocious in the dim light. This evil and foul art is to wrap the demonic energy with the true essence, compress and condense it, and force it out of the body from the fingertips. The majestic middle-aged man said coldly, causing the demonic energy whip to ignite black flames, and then whipped Wei Dongliu fiercely. The demonic energy is turbid and difficult to drive, so it needs to be pulled in the middle by the true essence. The quality of the true essence must be more than 8 times that of the demonic energy, otherwise the demonic energy will be in danger of disintegration. What are you doing? I saw that Waymojin had already stretched out his hand and grabbed the demonic energy whip. The blazing black flames on it were the highly unstable demonic energy that was constantly evaporating and polluting the surroundings. However, the palm of Waymojin holding the long whip did not have any traces of pollution and burnt black. Any demonic energy that touched his body would melt into it like a mud cow entering the sea, and obediently wandered in the meridians according to his will. This is impossible. The middle-aged man also lost the majestic expression on his face, and said in horror, "Why are you not afraid of the pollution of demonic energy? In this case, our sect's evil magic will have no killing power against you. Stop talking nonsense." Wei Dongliu said impatiently, "Hand over the specific training method quickly." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Mundo Fanfic Novelers, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelers. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 543 Witch Jiang, unemployed again. After about 6 hours, Wei Dongliu had collected 126 kinds of Taoist methods, more than 30 kinds of key refining techniques, and more than 200 kinds of sword controlling techniques. Jiang Lin watched the whole process from behind him, with doubts in her heart and a stunned look on her face. There were 2 things that surprised her. One was that Wei Dongliu's true energy capacity was too amazing. She was only concerned with defense and evasion in the back, and after a few hours, her true energy was consumed and there was little left. However, Waymojin resisted various attacks head-on. Not only did he do it easily, but he also did not show any embarrassment of insufficient true energy. Jiang Lin could confirm that he had never taken any elixir. So the question is such a terrifying true energy capacity the normal level of a Jintan's Hinran? Anyway, when Jiang Mon was still in Tianmodo, she had never seen any Jindan realm sister with such an exaggerated continuous combat capability. Master Kaimo Fairy could do it, but she was in the Yuning realm. In this way, Waymojin's true cultivation realm has to be questioned again. Another strange thing is that he seems to have an unfathomable memory. At first, while helping in the battle, which Jiang secretly recorded those mental formulas. But as the number of spells increased, which Jiang became dizzy and soon could not remember clearly. Wei Dongliu, on the other hand, had a blank expression on his face throughout the whole process. He did not seem to try hard to remember, nor did he need to rest. After hearing one spell, he would immediately go to the next one, in the end, which Jiang had completely given up. No matter what mental formulas you told me, whether they were powerful or not, I just let them go in one ear and out the other. Wei Dongliu, on his side, wrote down another Taoist method and asked the statue, "Do you have any more?" "Forget it, here's a Taoist method that I haven't recorded." The statue was silent for a moment, and suddenly said, "No more." "Really?" Wei Dongliu asked doubtfully. "Really gone?" The stone statue replied, "What's the use of you having so many Taoist magics? With your strength, only a few particularly powerful Taoist magics will be valuable to you. I'm the head of the Wanfei Tongxuan sect." Wei Dongliu saw that the stone statue could actually ask questions, and thought that it was probably some kind of spirit weapon, so he patiently explained to it, "As the head, isn't it normal to take inventory and clean up the Taoist magic stored in our sect?" It turns out to be the head. Not sure if it was his illusion, the stone statue's tone seemed to become flattering. "Head, there are some things, I don't know whether I should say it or not." "Say it," Wei Dongliu said lightly. "It's been a long time since your disciples came to learn Taoism." The stone statue complained, "Not only that, the real elders haven't come to whack new Taoist methods for a long time. I thought I had been forgotten by the sect." Wei Dongliu was silent for a moment, and said, "Tongxuan sect suffered a serious Taoist extinction incident as early as 4,000 years ago." "What, our sect is gone?" The stone statue was stunned at first, and then quickly said, "Master, are you kidding me? Our Tongxuan sect has been prosperous for thousands of years. How could it be destroyed?" "There is no need for me to lie," Wei Dongliu said indifferently. "Please confirm one last time whether there are any Taoist secrets that you have not given to me. If not, I'm leaving." "Master, please stay." The stone statue immediately shouted, "If possible, can you take me away from here? You want to go with me?" Wei Dongliu frowned slightly. "Let the master know that I am a magic weapon made by the elder Wanfei Tongxuan of the Jirizhao sect back then, called the Wanfei Xinling Divine Statue." The stone statue spoke quickly. I can help the master store all kinds of martial arts books, and I can also teach the elders in the sect, and I can even eliminate those disciples with insufficient qualifications in advance to avoid wasting the resources of the sect. Okay. Wei Dongliu interrupted its endless chatter. There is no need to eliminate the disciples, there are not many disciples in the first place. But let me ask you, how can you teach the disciples? No fighting, just simple chanting, preaching, and answering questions, right? Which Jing was stunned when she heard it in the back. After hearing what she said, she suddenly reacted and immediately fanned the flames and said, "Doorway, you must not believe in this kind of spirit. Who knows its true identity? Maybe there is actually a soul that has lost its body hidden behind it, ready to kill people and take over other people's bodies at any time. How dare you steal my job? Bullshit." The stone statue immediately cursed. How can a soul that has lost its body survive in a stone statue for more than 10,000 years? Go and die now and see how long your soul can remain in the world. I haven't formed a fetus, how should I know? Which Jing retorted, and turned to slander Wei Dongliu. Doorway, this kind of thing that can think independently is too dangerous. Who knows if there is a real spirit behind it? Even if it is not an old monster that has lost its body and is trying to take over other people's bodies, what if it is a seal demon? That is also an extremely troublesome and dangerous thing. Master, I can teach you anything. The stone statue disdained to argue with her, and just replied respectfully, whether it is foundation building, golden elixir or nascent soul, whether it is key refining, Taoism or other unorthodox methods, there is no problem. As long as you or other elders inject the knowledge that needs to be imparted to the disciples into my body with your spiritual consciousness, just like engraving on jade slips, I can pass it on to other disciples later. Only words, images and sounds can be recorded in the jade slips, but as a magical weapon of Kimen, I can also construct extremely realistic illusions to train disciples and younger generations in actual combat training, which is something that ordinary jade slips and scriptures cannot do. In addition, there is a risk that jade slips and scriptures will be stolen or lost by disciples, but if they're stored in my body, there is no need to worry about the safety of this aspect. For example, if enemies from a hostile sect sneak in and want to steal the Taoist classics, I will naturally not let them succeed. In the more than 5,000 years that I have served in Tongshuan sect, there has never been any theft of the Taoist tradition. Even when you came to visit this time, I only confirmed your identity and let you go after hearing you say the master's secret words. You can think of me as a keeper at the Sutra Pavilion who will never betray. The stone statue began to brag about its own advantages, such as deepening education, doing it for the sake of children, and being loyal forever. Which Jing kept saying bad things, questioning its identity as a weapon spirit, and pointed out that it was not safe to store all the classics in one place, because once they were broken through, they would be wiped out. Wei Dongliu pondered for a moment and decided to take the stone statue away. As for what Jinglin was worried about, he didn't need to care about it. First of all, there are many weapon spirits with independent thoughts. A mirror and a sword still live in his mind. There is no need to worry too much about a stone statue. Secondly, always asking Jingmo Envy to teach 2 apprentices will inevitably affect the loyalty of the apprentices. But if the stone statue weapon spirit is used to teach, there will naturally be no similar risks. The magic weapon spirit is not a person. Can the apprentice be abducted by the weapon spirit? After confirming with the Kunlun mirror that the body of the stone statue is indeed a magic weapon, and not the soul of an old monster waiting to take over, Wei Dongliu made a direct decision. Move it away. So Jingmo Envy also shut up obediently, but she felt aggrieved in her heart. At the beginning, she could provide information for Wei Dongliu, but it turned out that Wei Mojin is now the leader of a faction and does not lack any information at all. Later, she could discipline the disciples for Wei Dongliu, but then a strange stone statue magic weapon came and took away this job. Am I really only able to be a concubine? It's not impossible. It seems that I have to change my strategic goals. Chapter 544. I've seen through you. Since the stone statue is large and heavy, Wei Dongliu asked Jinglin to summon 2 strong men to carry the stone statue back to Shipping Mountain. He went to the Bloodsea ancestor again and briefly told him that the inheritance of Tongshuan sect had been completely recovered. After leaving the Bloodsea ancestor, he was invited by Zhu Ryan of Lingzhou Mountain to visit Lingzhou Mountain. He could only let Fish and Yaksha go back first. After playing in Lingzhou Mountain for 7 or 8 days, Wei Dongliu returned gracefully. Next, our Wanfei Tongshuan sect station will be moved to the top of Yunhegai Peak, he announced in the station. Yuojin and Banju naturally had no objection. Both of them were disciples and had no right to raise objections. Fission Yaksha and the stone statue naturally had no objection. These two are just tools and instruments. They didn't even have the status of disciples, let alone any suggestions. Only Jianglin, although he didn't ask any questions in public, found Wei Dongliu privately after everyone dispersed. Doorway, Jianglin asked in a low voice, "Excuse me, was it your idea to move the base from Shipping Mountain to the top of Yunhai Peak, or was it the idea of the Blood Sea Immortal?" Wei Dongliu looked at her in surprise, and after a while he said, "It was the idea of the Blood Sea Immortal." Doorway, Jianglin said in a low voice, "Since it was the idea of the Immortal, we can't refuse it. However, I think Droya should also be able to realize that if we really leave the hinterland of Shipping Mountain and go to the top of Yunhai Peak, it means that we have to move from behind the scenes to the front stage. With the strength of Wanfei Tongshuan sect, are you really prepared for this?" Wei Dongliu looked at her in surprise. Of course, what Jiangmonu said was the truth. Except for Wei Dongliu and Fission Yaksha, the rest of Wanfei Tongshuan sect are just a few cats and dogs, and they are not even at the level of Jiadan. If it weren't for the words of the Blood Sea Patriarch, it would have been a better choice to continue to hide here. There was no need to risk the entire sect just to gain reputation. However, what really surprised Wei Dongliu was that Jiangmo Envy was willing to put forward such an opinion. It is a taboo to talk about deep things with someone you have only just met. If the relationship is not deep enough, it will definitely cause disgust and vigilance if you rashly interfere in such a major decision-making matter of the sect, so Jiangmo Envy used to say, "I will do whatever you say," and would never say a word. After a little thought, he guessed the other party's psychology. It was nothing more than the task of educating disciples was taken away by someone else, and there was a strong sense of crisis, so she wanted to further demonstrate her value. This is exactly what Wei Dongliu wanted. A Jiangmo Envy who is willing to make suggestions for the operation of the sect is of course better than a Jiangmo Envy who is prudent and self-protective, so he patiently explained, "I naturally know what you are worried about. It's just that on the one hand, the Immortal has an order, and on the other hand, it is a rare opportunity." "Rare opportunity?" Jianglin tapped her cheek with a slender finger, revealing a surprised "please tell me more" expression. This kind of beauty's curiosity and seeking for answers can bring pleasure to men, so Wei Dongliu once again let down his guard and explained, "Why do you think I established the Wanfei Tongshuan sect?" Jianglin, "Of course I don't know." She secretly complained in her heart. Which head of a sect would casually recruit disciples with mediocre talents and throw them all to guest officials to discipline? It is unprecedented, unheard of, and extremely bizarre. Which Jiang smiled embarrassedly, with 3 parts of admiration and 7 parts of charm, and said in a sweet voice, "I am stupid, and fellow Taoist has always acted in an unfathomable way. It is really difficult for me to guess. It's very simple." Wei Dongliu said proudly, "Since I have inherited the mantle of the Wanfei Tongshuan sect, I naturally have the obligation to revive its former glory and make it great again. Otherwise, what is the difference between me and those mediocre people who caused the Tongshuan sect to sever its orthodoxy? Since the Blood Sea Patriarch wants to find someone to be the leader of the Fanxing sect, even if I refuse to agree, he will naturally find someone else to play this role. In this way, not only will the opportunity to rise be taken away, but it will also bring powerful enemies to the Wanfei Tongshuan sect. Isn't it ridiculous?" These words are half true and half false. After all, the mission of Wei Dongliu's character is to win the trust of the Heldro, spy on the Heldro's intelligence, and finally seize their sky-bounding stone fragments. The Hell Road wanted him to be the giant of the Magic Road, which clearly meant that he was going to be used as a chess piece. Therefore, Wei Dongliu's task became to continuously improve his own value as a chess piece, until his existence was already indispensable to the plan of the Hell Road, and then he would have a chance to gain their deep trust. As for what makes the Wanfei Tongshuan sect great again, who cares? It doesn't matter at all. I see. Jianglin then cooperated with an expression of admiration. It's because I didn't think it through. This was also half true and half false. Of course, which Jiang could see at a glance that if she didn't climb up the ladder given by the Blood Sea ancestor, the danger to the Wanfei Tongshuan sect would be greater than the expected benefits lost. But she pretended not to understand at all, just to give Wei Dongliu a chance to show off, which Jiang had a vague intuition that Wei Dongliu, a big man who always acted mysteriously, seemed to enjoy this mysterious temperament of his mind is hard to be understood. To put it bluntly, as long as you show an expression of admiration for the big man, wow, you are worthy of it, the other party will be particularly useful. Therefore, she was also happy to create some topics and give the other party the opportunity to show the ability of a big boss. The fundamental purpose was to slowly win his favor and enhance her importance in his mind. Sooner or later, I will take down this guy who likes to hide and pretend to be mysterious, and then squeeze out all your value. She thought proudly in her heart. Wei Dongliu naturally didn't know that the Jing witch in front of him seemed to be conquered by his personality charm step by step, but in fact she was always thinking about turning the tables, taking him down completely, and then ruthlessly contradicting him, or even squeezing out his value. He just let Jing witch leave, and then told Kunlun Mirror. Jing, read Long Long's file. Wei Dongliu took the first step to become a giant of the magic path, and if Long Long remembered correctly, the Kanglong clan had just received the edict of the Kulin Emperor of Thongzhou, asking to see Long Hu and himself. The clan speculated that considering that the eldest son of Kulin Emperor Qiuan had already transformed, he was probably greedy for Long Hu's blood. How could I let the Dog Emperor succeed? Must rebel. Point 5. Donghuang Realm, Dongzhou, Tongqu Avenue. Character identity. Long Long. Mirror Flower Water Moon Templar covered, in the process of time and space shuttle. On the Tongqu Avenue of Dongzhou, the envoys of the Kanglong clan are slowly heading towards this Thongzhou imperial city. Along the way, there are constantly scale clan lords from all over the country, carrying various gifts to visit, expressing their eternal loyalty to the Dragon clan. The leader of the Kanglong clan, Qin Bi Wang, did not neglect anything, and entertained all the visiting scale clan lords diligently, and never gave them an excuse to rebel by saying the Dragon clan does not value me. Most of the scale clans are cold-blooded and ruthless, and they cannot be expected to be loyal and grateful spontaneously, so they must show their military power as frequently as possible to achieve a deterrent effect. Whether it is the strength of the first elder and the second elder, or the immortal bloodline of Long Long and Long Hu, these scale clan lords praised them on the surface and feared them in their hearts. Needless to say, everyone has long known about the former, but the latter is an uncompromising manifestation of the potential of the clan. When the two of them entered the realm of Demon King, the Dragon clan suddenly gained 2 super fighters. How could this not make people tremble with fear? Therefore, the obedience of the scaly clan lords increased a little more. Chapter 545 The Power of the Fox. The entire East Empire Realm continent is very similar to the Shenzhou continent. The West continent is high and mountainous, while the East continent is low and densely covered with water networks, with swamps and wetlands everywhere. These dark and humid environments gave birth to the cold and ruthless scale-based demons. Looking around at the banquet, Long Long found that most of the scale-based lords who came to visit had pointed vertical pupils. Even when they were smiling politely, they looked like they were smiling on the outside but not on the inside, giving people an extremely cold temperament. Snakes, lizards, pangolins, Long Long even saw a demon whose body was a crocodile, with a big mouth that was almost open to the ears, and a mouth full of crooked saw teeth. Some scale-based lords left after visiting and leaving gifts, while others quickly joined the team heading to Thongzhou after having a secret conversation with Qin Bi Wang. Long Long remained silent throughout the whole process, observing secretly, and gradually confirmed that among these scale-based people, the relationship between the Snake clan and the Dragon clan was the closest. Next are the lizards, salamanders and other races. Their numbers are slightly less than the various snake tribes, but their strength seems to be much more mediocre, and most of them are more humble. The most bizarre is the crocodile tribe. These guys speak with a tone of recklessness, and they often tell dirty jokes and horse laughter. The other guests present ignored them very tacitly. When the envoy team arrived at the border of Dongzhou, the team had expanded from more than 100 to more than 600. Among them, there were many small scaly lords of lower status who spontaneously served as the guards of the envoy team. Long Long quietly observed the changes in the team and continued to remain silent. Dragon Fox curled up in his arms and fell asleep. The little fox didn't like the hypocritical courtesy and etiquette between these nobles, so he yawned and felt sleepy all the time. As for the journey, he was even more bored, so he simply lay in his arms and squinted his eyes and dozed off. Originally, she liked to sleep lying on her stomach, but due to the racial characteristics of the Sky Fox clan, the front armor thickened greatly after the transformation, so she could only lie on her back on his legs, and in her spare time, she would do all kinds of sweet things with Long Long. Long Long. Waking up again, the little fox rubbed her sleepy eyes and called out in a tender voice, You want to drink water, right? Long Long went to get the kettle, but someone hugged his neck. I want a kiss, Long said in a sweet voice. Long Long showed an expression of I really can't do anything to you, and was about to lower his head to deal with it, but he heard someone knocking on the carriage window outside and reminded him. Young master. The front is the territory of Dongzhou. The clan leader asked me to tell you that you are not allowed to leave the carriage from now on. It seemed that it was Xian, a small lord from the wide-scale clan. With his outstanding fighting ability, Qin Biuan designated him as one of Long Long's personal guards. Of course, Long Long used his excellent recognition ability, keen perception ability, and delicate psychological analysis ability to scan and find that Xian was actually a member of the Jialong clan, just disguised as a white-scaled snake clan. The traitor the Delta Shiro planted in the Envoy team. He is also my colleague. Got it. Long Long raised his head and just answered, and was hugged by the Dragon Fox again, pressing his head down. Young master. Xian heard that there was something wrong with his last voice, and he couldn't help but secretly doubt in his heart, is there anything wrong with you? Long Long hurriedly pushed the Dragon Fox away and shouted, it's okay, I just woke up. Before he finished speaking, the Dragon Fox pounced on him again and blocked Long Long's next words in his throat. Young master. Xian was immediately shocked. Listening to his last voice that stopped abruptly, it was obvious that he was physically covered. Someone sneaked into the carriage to attack the two young masters. He rushed to the carriage, ignoring the guard's obstruction, and directly pulled open the door curtain, shouting, who is in the carriage? Ah? He saw the Dragon Fox lying on Long Long's body, holding his head and licking him in various ways, and his furry tail was still wagging happily. Excuse me. Xian immediately lowered his head, quickly lowered the door curtain, and turned away. You were too reckless just now. The Kangdong guard next to him laughed at him. The two young masters are doing something inside, and you dare to barge in and disturb them. Fortunately, young Master Long Long is a gentle person. If it were those violent and unreasonable people, they would have just blasted you out with one claw, okay? How should I know? Xian defended awkwardly. The young master's voice was unclear, and it was obvious that he couldn't speak. How could I know that it was young Master Long who was playing with him? Besides, playing is playing. Who would lie on the other person's face and lick it? Most people would definitely think in the direction of someone's mouth was forcibly covered. Kangdong guards. What for? Xian frowned and asked, why do you show pity? You kid. The Kangdong guard next to him sighed and said, you are too young. Inside the carriage, Long Long finally got a chance to catch his breath. He pulled Long to his side and gave her a slap on the head. What are you doing? You were seen naked by the guards just now, didn't you notice? No. Dragon Fox said indifferently, you looked, so what? Who in the tribe doesn't know that you are mine? What does I am yours mean? Can you clarify the gender? Aren't you too possessive, Fox? Long Long sneered in his heart, but he also knew that he couldn't argue with her here, otherwise Dragon Fox would definitely get angry immediately. Therefore, he could only show a helpless and doting expression, gently kneading Dragon Fox's ears. Okay, you have the final say. I will listen to Long Fox, okay? Obviously, it has transformed into a human. Why are the ears still as soft and warm as animal ears? It's really interesting. Dragon Fox was comforted by his pinching, so she adjusted a more comfortable posture in his arms, and put her tail in his arms. Come, help me comb my hair. Long Long took out a wooden comb from under the mat and began to comb Dragon Fox's tail. Since the transformation, the Dragon Fox's tail has become more fluffy and soft, with each hair distinct, smooth and tough, and feels so good to the touch, just like the highest quality blanket. It is said that foxes like to cover themselves with their tails when they sleep. Long Long feels that he must like it too. The Dragon Fox leaned her head on his shoulder and let him comb the slightly tangled hair with a comb. She curled up her feet carefully, and her round jade-like toes were slightly straightened, and then stretched out as if she couldn't help it. Be gentle. Her tail suddenly shook, and she said delicately, the tip of my tail is more sensitive, please be gentle. Long Long. Damn, such a charming fox, I can't control myself. So many requirements. He quickly threw the comb on the mat, and used an angry voice to cover up his abnormality. Comb it yourself. Not long after, the guards outside the carriage heard the sound of fighting coming from inside again. But this time, even the inexperienced Xiang consciously pretended not to hear it. Chapter 546. The capital of all the monsters, the City of Dragons. As the envoys went deeper into Dongzhou, the surrounding terrain and environment gradually changed. First of all, Dongzhou was densely covered with water networks and many wetlands and swamps. Dongzhou was mostly plains, and the river density is extremely suitable, which is very suitable for farming. Near the imperial capital, the plains on both sides are golden wheat fields. The lowly horned monsters harvested and stuffed rice into their mouths, chewing them fragrantly. Long Long looked out the window and felt that these monsters seemed to be no different from humans. Without cultivation, you can't get ahead. If you can't get ahead, you'll lack resources. And if you lack resources, you won't have cultivation, which is a triple vicious cycle. Only monks with great wisdom, great perseverance, and great determination, such as himself, can overcome layers of difficulties and jump out of this vicious cycle. Long Long, look at me. The fox next to him made another ignored and dissatisfied cry. God knows why she can be so clingy. You were a canine, not a succubus. Long Long had no choice but to turn around and hold Longu in his arms. The little fox buried its head in his chest, rubbed it comfortably, and began to doze off comfortably. Young master. Xian knocked on the window again. It's still more than 20 miles away from the city of 10,000 monsters. Long Long immediately understood, and hurriedly patted Longu in his arms, reminding him, Fox, the imperial capital is come in. You wake up first. Long was still a little grumpy after getting up, and played with him for a while, and suddenly heard a noisy sound coming from outside. Then, a voice shouted, His Royal Highness Kikion, the young patriarch of the Cunning clan, is here to meet Long Long and Longu of the Kanglong clan. Longu showed an expression of what a trouble, and Long Long frowned slightly and pulled Longu's arm. Not long after, the man outside shouted again, The young leader of the Cunning clan, the Crown Prince Kikion, is here to meet Long Long and Longu of the Kanglong clan. Why don't you hurry up and greet them? Long Long still refused to go out until Xiang came back to the side of the carriage, knocked on the window and said, Young master, the clan leader said, there is no way, we still have to meet him. Long Long was speechless when he heard this. I thought the clan could block it for us. In the end, we still have to deal with it. He could only hold Longu's hand, lift the door curtain and walk out, saluting and saying, Long Long meets His Highness. Longu meets His Highness. Longu also said. Then, she frowned unhappily. Because the burning eyes of the young man in the distance were already firmly fixed on her. As early as when the Dragon Clan's envoy team entered Thongzhou, the news had already been transmitted to the capital of all the monsters. After Qiuan received the news, he ordered his eldest son Kikion to go over to receive them. The Dragon Clan was led by the clan leader. According to etiquette, the Cunning clan should also let the clan leader come out to greet them. However, Qiuan, as the emperor of the Demon Clan, was unwilling to condescend to come, so he asked the Crown Prince to come to greet them. In terms of etiquette, it can only be said that it was so-so, barely acceptable. Although the Dragon Clan was unhappy, they would not make trouble because of this. However, Kikion obviously misunderstood his father's meaning. He had heard of the name of Dragon Fox a long time ago. After all, she was the offspring of the previous emperor. If he could marry her, wouldn't he naturally have the legitimacy to inherit the throne? Therefore, Qiuan asked him to stand up to greet her, and Kikion naturally thought that he wanted to let himself see the appearance of his fiancée in advance. At this time, seeing the plump figure of the Dragon Fox, soft hair, and affectionate eyebrows, Kikion's heart immediately softened a little. From the aesthetic point of view of the Hare clan, this Dragon Fox obviously looks more like a fox than a dragon, and is considered a very beautiful beauty. However, when his eyes fell on the two peoples holding hands, his expression suddenly became annoyed again. Who is this guy? Why is he holding my fiancée's hand? Qin Biao saw that he was in a bad mood, and immediately changed the subject and said, I wonder why His Majesty summoned Long Long and others. If it's not urgent, let me take people to settle down in the city first. After all, they are tired from the journey and need to rest. Kikion responded absent-mindedly, only to see Long noticed his gaze, slightly frowned, and quietly hid behind Long Long. So the prince became even more angry and wanted to explode on the spot, but seeing that the dragon tribe on the opposite side was large in number, he had to suppress his anger in his heart and perfunctorily said to Qin Biao, I don't know what my father means. Since you want to settle down in the city, just follow me. Qin Biao saw that he looked unhappy, and he could guess what happened. Besides coveting Longu's beauty and seeing Long Long as a rival in love, what other reasons could there be? What's worse is that this prince is a brainless guy. He is notorious in the imperial capital for his recklessness and his disregard for the lives of monsters. If he really loses his mind and does something recklessly, which exacerbates the conflict between Kalin and Kanglong to the extreme, it will not end well. Seeing that Kikion was already leading the way with a gloomy face, Qin Biao hurriedly called the guards and whispered a few words in his ear, and the guards immediately withdrew. Not long after, Long Long and Longu returned to the carriage and suddenly heard someone outside say, Long Long, Longu. Are you convenient now? Can I come in? It was the voice of the great elder King Kang. Long Long reacted immediately and quickly motioned Long to sit next to him, saying, "Of course, please come in, great elder." "Okay." King Kang lifted the door curtain and entered the carriage. King Kang, the great elder of the Kanglong clan, is also in the realm of immortals, but his rank is lower than that of the Kanglong ancestor. The realm of the demon race is different from that of the human race. It is too dependent on the potential rank of the bloodline itself. The reason why the elder can become the second strongest in the whole clan is because his bloodline rank is very high. The reason why he is not as strong as the ancestor Kanglong is because his bloodline rank is not high enough. Of course, even so, in the entire Donghuang realm, there are no more than 5 opponents who can compete with the elder. Therefore, as King Kang entered the carriage, Long Long secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Although Long didn't seem to think much, Long Long noticed Kikyo's angry eyes that seemed to be like being bitten by a bull. After returning to the carriage, he immediately prepared for battle and asked the Kunlun mirror to scan at least 12 times per second to prevent someone from suddenly breaking through the carriage from the outside and snatching my fox away with lightning speed. Fortunately, the clan leader did not relax his vigilance. He noticed that Kikyon was in a bad mood and immediately asked the elder to come to protect him. "Great. King Bio Wang, you did a good job." The envoy team slowly stretched into a line on the road. In front of them was the political center of the Eastern Empire realm, the huge imperial city with the largest permanent population. The imperial city has many names, and the most common unofficial names are naturally the imperial capital and the city of all the monsters. Because it is sandwiched between 2 large rivers on the island in the center of the lake, it is also called the city in the lake. There is a high tower in the center of the city, 1,300 feet high, called the Dragon Tower. It is said that His Majesty in Long liked to show his true form, coiled on the Dragon Tower, and overlooked the country he ruled. Therefore, this imperial capital was also called the City of High Towers and the City of Dragons. Of course, the last name has been abandoned. Because the central tower is 1,300 feet high, the surrounding walls are also 200 feet high, and there is a forbidden air formation drawn on it. No cultivator can fly near the wall or in the city, and can only pass through the city gate. The feather tribe of Nanzhao hates the huge wall of the imperial capital very much. After all, for the feather tribe, it is too dangerous to not be able to fly. Therefore, Nanzhao and Thongzhao have not been in harmony for generations. This was the case when Jialong was in power, and it was also that case after Kalin succeeded to the throne. Long Long lifted half of the door curtain and looked at the huge wall in front of him with Longu. As the convoy approached the imperial capital, the wall became taller and taller. At the back, it was almost as tall as a mountain, straight and strict. The little fox was a little shocked and whispered to Long Long, "Long Long, this city is like a prison. I don't want to live in such a place." Long Long interrupted Longu's complaint with just one sentence. "Fox, this city was built by your father." Chapter 547. Sea-splitting tide-breaking crossbow. The long convoy passed through the city gate. Most of the houses on both sides were made of stone, and the central street was slightly sunken. It is said that in the past city in the lake, the streets were connected not by streets but by waterways. It sounds very dragon-like, but Kalin certainly doesn't like this kind of environment, so later on, a large-scale urban reconstruction was carried out. Many waterways were turned into streets, ponds were drained and planted with flowers and plants that the Horn clan likes. Long Long quietly looked out from the gap in the door curtain, and saw that most of the residents on the surrounding roadsides were Horn clan, but there were also many other races. Among them, there were Horn clan monks wearing huge and exaggerated golden horn ornaments, holding spears and walking around the streets in a show of force. These are the imperial capital's garrison troops, all of whom are composed of pure-blooded Horn clan, and no other races are allowed in the 3 generations of the paternal and maternal lines of their ancestors, because they value bloodline more than ability. These garrison troops are very corrupt, and the residents of the imperial capital call them big heads to mock them for liking to decorate and show off their horns. Seeing that the Crown Prince Kikyon was leading the team in front, the captain of the big head quickly came over. He was a fat deer tribe named Luz Thong. He said with sweat pouring down his face, "I didn't know that your highness was out. I'm guilty, go and drive those low-class people away for me." Kikyon pointed to the front and said. Luz Thong hurriedly scolded his men and violently dispersed all the passers-by who were watching around. There were also a few slow walkers who were stabbed by the big head with a spear and died on the spot. The bodies were also quickly dragged away. The unformed demons, regardless of their IQ, all have no basic human rights protection. After a dozen breaths, the road ahead was completely cleared, and no idle people dared to stay here. The convoy was still moving slowly. Long and Long looked at the outside world in the carriage, and they were a little uncomfortable with each other. The two had only recently transformed, and had not yet developed the discriminatory mentality of those who have not transformed like Grastomy that the transformed monks had. Seeing these untransformed little demons being killed wantonly by the big head, they felt a subconscious empathy and pity. Suddenly, a low whistle sounded. "Be careful," Kumlinjing said in shock, and saw that the elder King Kang suddenly grabbed Long and pushed him and the dragon fox to the ground, and pushed his other hand forward. The wall of the carriage in front suddenly exploded, and the blue light rushed to the palm of the elder's hand. However, in the elder's hand, a long sword appeared at some point, and it slashed heavily towards the center of the blue light. The huge explosion shockwave spread in all directions, and the 4 dragon guards closest to them were shattered on the spot. The guards farther away finally had time to use their magical powers and barely blocked the aftermath of the explosion despite being seriously injured. More aftermath blasted out from the gaps between the guards, instantly razing the houses of 2 blocks, along with the residents inside, to the ground. Kikion, who was walking in the front, was also stopped by several Horn Clan guards at the risk of their lives, and finally escaped unscathed. When he got up from the ground with a panicked look on his face, he couldn't help but scream in fear at the desolate scene around him, which was like purgatory. That night, Long and Long were placed in the palace on the bottom floor of the Shenlong Tower. This place is located underground and is heavily guarded by the Cunning clan, so there is absolutely no possibility of being assassinated again. In the Divine Empire Palace, Yuan was furious and issued a death order to the captain of the city defense guard Luz Thong to find the origin of the assassin. About half an hour later, the preliminary incident report was presented to the Emperor. The assassin's body was gone, and the location of the crime was determined to be behind that chimney on the roof of the Canoe Tavern in the outer city, which overlooked the Dragon Envoy's convoy on the street. The murder weapon was confirmed to be the sea-breaking tide crossbow, a dangerous magic weapon known for its power. The more true essence is injected into it, the greater its power. If a Jindan cultivator uses it with all his strength, he can even use it to kill the real body of the Demon King. What's even more confusing is that the sea-breaking tide crossbow is a magic weapon of the human race in ancient times, specially forged for the strong flesh of the demon race. After the demon race withdrew from the Eastern Empire realm, the sea-breaking tide crossbow also disappeared in the human race. The assassin was a Feather Clan cultivator. The guard team speculated that when he committed the crime, he should have his back to the street below. After turning his head to confirm the location of the carriage, he pressed the sea-breaking tide crossbow against his chest, so that the crossbow, himself and the carriage formed a straight line, and then quickly injected all the true essence. The crossbow arrows that burst out tore apart the assassin's body and the carriage at the same time. If it weren't for the great elder King Kang who was also inside the carriage and used his magic sword to split the crossbow arrows head-on, Long and Long would definitely be reduced to dust with their newly transformed physical strength. Just look at the 2 nearby blocks that were razed to the ground by the aftermath of the explosion. The only evidence obtained so far is that the residual true essence of the Feather Clan monks was found in the magic weapon of the sea-breaking tide crossbow. In addition, the flesh and blood of the Feather Clan monks were also found near the crossbow. From this, the guards determined the assassin's race. As for his specific identity, since there is no body left, it is naturally impossible to know. As for why he hid the sea-breaking tide crossbow and why he assassinated the Dragon Clan envoy's convoy, all of them were lost with the death of the assassin, and the clues were cut off. Yuan was furious after reading the incident report. He dragged Luz Thong down and whipped him 150 times. Then he said to Qin Bio Wang, the leader of the Kanglong clan who was watching the whole process, "This incident is probably done by the remnants of the Yu clan of Nanzhou. If Long and Long died in the imperial capital, the Dragon Clan would misunderstand that it was my Cunning clan who did it. When the war between Thongzhou and Dongzhou broke out, they in Nanzhou could linger and steal a chance to survive. Such despicable deeds are really despicable." Qin Bio listened expressionlessly, nodded and agreed. Yes, if they want to alienate the relationship between the 2 clans, they have made a wrong calculation. The 2 of them cursed the Yu clan of Nanzhou with a common hatred, as if the identity of the real murderer had been completely confirmed. Yuan repeatedly emphasized that he would definitely give an explanation to the Dragon Clan for the casualties this time. Qin Bio thanked him and left. After Qin Bio left, Yuan's face turned cold and his eyes looked through the palace gate into the distance. Who did this assassination? First of all, it couldn't be the Feather Clan. Because if the murderer can't be found, the two clans don't want to be enemies because of this, and in the end they will definitely put the blame on the Feather Clan. It doesn't matter if there is evidence or not, the Feather Clan will definitely take the blame, so there is no need for the Feather Clan assassin to die with the target of the assassination. Secondly, why assassinate Long Long and Long Hu? Although these two people are of immortal bloodline, they have just transformed into no threat to any force. To create a conflict between Thong Zhao and Dong Zhao? It's unlikely. Now that the Cunning clan has the support of the Chuan clan and has married the White Tiger clan, the Vermilion Bird clan is unlikely to start a war in the short term. Therefore, unless the Kanglong clan collectively has water in their brains, they will never conflict with the Cunning clan. They can't afford such a price, and they will eventually accept the explanation given by the Cunning clan and choose to keep things quiet. In other words, it is unlikely that there is a political purpose behind this assassination, because the result is already determined. However, it is possible to get a magic weapon of this level of the Dividing Sea Breaking Tide crossbow and keep it secret until now. After the assassination, the magic weapon must have been left at the scene, which means that the person behind the scenes was prepared to abandon the magic weapon. It couldn't be an ordinary cultivator. There must be a hidden force behind this, leading this assassination. In order to kill Long Long and Long Hu, he was even willing to sacrifice the Sea-Breaking Tide crossbow. Who is it? Chapter 548 Secret Passage, Hidden Map. The Shenlong Tower, a high tower built by Emperor Yinglong himself, is made of white jade bricks, which are very similar to the jade bricks in the Biosring Secret Realm. Long Long and Long Hu are protected in a quiet room at the bottom of the Shenlong Tower. The monks of the Cunning family were closely guarding outside, and even a fly could not easily fly in. Of course, Long Long did not need to explain it. Long Hu could see that this protection also had a bit of imprisonment in it. After all, the original guards of the Dragon Clan employees had been isolated outside and were not allowed to enter to pay their respects. After noticing this, Long Hu became obviously anxious. Fortunately, with Long Long by her side, she was not too panicked, but just kept stroking her tail nervously. Don't stroke it. Long Long persuaded helplessly, if you stroke it again, your tail will be bald. It won't be bald. Long was a little unhappy. The two were locked in this underground room for almost a whole day. Not only did no one come to visit, but no one even sent them water or food. Although the demons had gotten rid of their dependence on blood after their transformation, this inhumane treatment still showed the Cunning clan's contempt for them. It was just short of saying you two stay put and don't run around to attract assassins. Long Long had no good solution to this. What he could confirm at the moment was that the Cunning clan would never harm him and Long Hu, because that would be tantamount to breaking up with the Kanglong clan. But on this basis, Long Long highly suspected that the Kanglong clan was using him and Long Hu as bargaining chips to engage in some kind of political game with the Cunning clan. Otherwise the clan would not be indifferent to the fact that the two are now imprisoned, even if it was mainly to protect the safety of the two. Such treatment was too harsh and rude. Thinking about it carefully, the purpose behind the assassin's assassination of him and Long Hu is also very simple. It should be to kill the two. Because the current political situation is too clear. Thong Zhao Cunning and Nan Zhao Thu now have just stopped fighting, and it is impossible for them to start a war with Dong Zhao Kanglong again. Considering that Cunning still has the support of Chuan and Bayu, Kanglong naturally has no intention of challenging Cunning. The peace between the two tribes is based on the fear of each other's strength, which cannot be easily shaken by an assassination. Considering that the mastermind behind the scenes will not fail to see this, the only explanation for the motive of the assassination is the assassination itself. But have I offended anyone with Long Hu? No. Long Long thought that he had always been kind to others and never easily made enemies with others. Even if he had a little unpleasantness with some further tribes on the way to escape from Nanzhao to the north, he would not let the other party use such a powerful means to assassinate him. According to King Ping's sword, that attack already had the power to assassinate a Immortal Cultivator. It was really puzzling. Fortunately, he soon had no time to think about it, because Long Hu began to walk around the room and sniff everywhere. There is wind here, she said suddenly. What do you mean by wind? Long Long was stunned for a moment. Hush. Long raised his index finger and said, there is air flowing in this room. Of course there is air flowing in this room. Long Long said nonchalantly, because there is a fox running around the room, and there are hairs floating in the breeze. I'm not talking about the wind I created. Long shouted angrily, and then lowered his voice. I suspect there is a secret passage here. Secret passage? Only the gaps in the secret passage can bring in the outside air. Long Yu continued to wander around the corner of the room, touching her and sniffing there from time to time, and carefully checking. Seeing that she was so sure, Long couldn't help but feel puzzled. Since my fox is so sure, I'd better check it carefully. So Long also accompanied Long Yu and patrolled the room. With careful search and scanning, Long finally found that the airflow that Long Yu said came from the floor under the feet of the two people. Lifting the carpet on the floor, she saw a huge stone brick underneath. The stone brick was very thick, and the sound of knocking did not seem hollow. Long Yu curiously lay beside the floor tile and realized that the breath was indeed seeping out from the gaps at the edge of the stone brick. Ventilation hole? No, who would set up a vent under the floor? Long Yu took out the fox sword and tried to pry the stone brick up from the edge of the gap. Her face turned red with effort, but the stone brick remained motionless, as if mocking her futility. Long was silent for a moment, then he pressed his hand on the floor tile. The 5 elements of divine light erupted from his palm, and the floor tile seemed to dissolve and soon disappeared. Amazing! Dragon Fox exclaimed immediately. Long, what kind of bloodliner magic is that? It's just a little trick. Although the Eastern Empire realm and the human realm are not connected, Long did not intend to tell the little fox everything, but just changed the subject skillfully. There is indeed a tunnel below. Under the stone bricks, there is a vertical corridor with fixed wooden ladders and switches on the side of the corridor. After carefully observing the structure of the switch and the cross-section of the stone bricks after they were dissolved, Long knew that the stone bricks were actually driven by a one-way switch. If someone climbed up from the tunnel below, they could use the switch on the side of the corridor to push the stone bricks from bottom to top with the principal leverage. Conversely, if it was someone in the room, because the stone bricks themselves were heavy and there were no handles for force, they would not be able to pry them up. Long. Dragon Fox called again in a low voice, "Are we going down?" "Wait a minute." Long cast his eyes outside the door of the room. Standing outside the door were 2 cunning monks who were responsible for guarding the room and preventing the two from going out. But if there was no sound in the room for a long time, there was no guarantee that the two would not come in to check. "A Jin, use some magic," Long ordered. Jin responded and gave the cunning monks outside a simple mental hint, telling them not to come in to check the room. "Let's go down." After taking the final precautions, Long ordered, "I'll go down first, you follow me." "Yes," Long said eagerly. Long leaned down. The wooden ladder was a little old, but there was no sign of decay. The dust on it was very thick. It should have been a long time since anyone had drilled through this tunnel. As Long said, the ventilation below was very good. It was obviously not a dead end, but connected to another place. After dragging the carpet above to cover the entrance of the cave, the two continued to go down. They reached the ground about 5 or 6 feet away. The tunnel here was very low, so only 2 people could pass through with their waists exposed, and the deeper they went, the darker it was. Long, who has the blood of the Scale clan, is not afraid of the dark and humid environment, but the little fox is a little scared and can only hold Long from behind and walk forward carefully. Long frowned slightly. This front armor is really in the way. Chapter 549 Exploration and Jealousy. The length of the tunnel was far beyond their expectations. After reaching the end, they pushed open another secret door and came to a dark room. There was nothing else in the dark room except a wooden table fixed to the ground. There was a papyrus on the stone table, nailed to the table by a dagger. Long took out the long sword, and the light from the sword illuminated the old paper. There were very blurred words on it, most of which were almost difficult to recognize. The South Province is not very peaceful. There was another rebellion yesterday. Thu now killed 31 families of the Feather Clan and violently unified the internal forces. There may be war in the future. The Mao clan actively built mountain fortresses, and spies frequently appeared to infiltrate the Huan city. The North Province Chuan and Kalin have a close relationship. Although there is nothing unusual, we must be on guard. Judging from the limited text, it should be the manuscript of some intelligence personnel, but now it is impossible to read the full text. Long tried to lift the manuscript, but as soon as he touched it, the papyrus quickly broke into pieces and could no longer be repaired. "I'm sorry," she whispered hurriedly, not knowing who she was apologizing to. Long held up the illuminating long sword and carefully checked the surroundings again. The scan results showed that there were 3 secret doors around, all leading to unknown places. Long redrawn the route he had taken so far in his mind, and was surprised to find that this tunnel network was like a skeleton, and it was likely to cover the entire bottom floor of the Shenlong Tower. Who built this tunnel? Why has no one discovered it for so long? Keeping these questions in mind, Long Long continued to explore the secret doors and tunnels around with Long Yu. The corridor behind the secret door on the left led to an unknown room. Long Long and Long Yu hid behind that partition and listened quietly. There were sounds of chopping knives and burning stoves outside, which seemed to be a kitchen. Then, the chefs started talking. The last time the fruit was not fresh enough, the supervisor scolded me. How did you buy that fruit? Who stole the wine I put in the cupboard? I told you not to use my kitchen knife. Although they were behind the partition, the chefs' voices were very clear, as if they were talking right next to their ears. Long Long immediately realized that this tunnel was built specifically for eavesdropping. There was no useful information in the kitchen, so the two of them returned the same way and chose another secret door to enter. When they reached the secret door at the end, they heard the sound of gurgling water. Long Long listened carefully and heard the soft laughter of the women. There was a public bath behind this. Someone was bathing in it. He subconsciously moved closer and found that there were actually a large number of small holes on the secret door. Peeping outside through the small holes, he could see that the secret door was located above a wall of the public bath, close to the height of the ceiling, and he could clearly see the Horn demon bathing in the pool. Putting aside other things, the figures of the women of the Horn tribe are generally plump, different from the slender figures of the Scale tribe and the well-proportioned and powerful figures of the Fur tribe. They have a unique charm of flesh. Before he could see more clearly, his shoulder was bitten by the fox, and his waist was entangled by the tail, and he was dragged back into the secret passage behind him. Long Long, what were you looking at just now? Long Hu bit his neck angrily. Disgusting. Shameless. Obscene. Long Long silently exposed his scales to block the little fox's biting attack, and said calmly, Fox, don't talk nonsense, I'm just confirming what room the passage leads to. Isn't that a bathhouse? You can tell by the sound. You came closer because you obviously want to take a look. Look at those. Long Hu held it in for a long time before spitting out a word. Look at those shameless bodies. Long Long was speechless, and after a long while he said affectionately, Fox, I have no interest in them at all. They are not as pretty as you. Long Hu still refused to give in. After all, if she was too easily persuaded, she would be considered easy to cheat by men. Long Hu was instinctively sensitive in this regard, so she continued to be jealous. Nonsense. You're obviously looking at them all the time and couldn't take your eyes off them at all. Long Long was speechless and was almost forced into a dead end. But who is he? Having dealt with junior sisters Yu, senior sister Am, Miss Shi and Witch Jiang, he was already experienced in socializing and quickly realized that Long Hu didn't want to hear an explanation at all. He just wanted to improve his status between the two sexes by making trouble. To put it bluntly, he just wanted to eat candy, so he cried. So he hugged Long Hu and patted her head fiercely. Long Hu really collapsed in his arms and stammered, Anyway, you are not allowed to look at other women. Long Long naturally agreed, but his mind suddenly ran away. This little fox has such a strong desire for exclusivity. If he knows the existence of other people in the future, what will be his reaction? Oh, it's nothing more than baring teeth and roaring, no panic. What's more, why should I, Long Long, be responsible for what Qiu Chang Time and the others did? Thinking of this, Long Long immediately felt at ease. He continued to coax Long Hu patiently, and the two continued to explore the tunnel. The Shenlong Tower is 1,300 feet high, and the area of the bottom floor is also astonishingly large. This tunnel network is also unfathomable, as if it covers the entire Shenlong Tower. When the two walked to the end of the tunnel, they saw another vertical passage and wooden ladder leading upwards. Climbing up the wooden ladder for several feet, they came to a more spacious secret room again. There were many torture instruments and shackles fixed to the wall in the secret room. Although there were no corpses or bones, there were black blood stains everywhere, which still hinted at what happened here. Long Hu was a little uneasy about the surrounding environment and urged Long Long to leave quickly. After Long Long carefully checked and scanned it, and confirmed that there were no hidden treasures here, he took Long Hu out of the torture room and arrived at a dungeon. This place is more spacious, with prison cells made of iron fences on both sides, and rune arrays that suppress spiritual power and divine consciousness are engraved on the walls. Long Long became interested in these rune arrays, an ancient array that he had never seen before. It is worth studying. Although the dragon fox was still a little anxious, he also saw that these magic array runes were very important to Long Long, so he waited quietly by the side. After a while, Long Long finally detected and scanned all the magic array runes on the wall. The magic array on the wall, as always, inherited the characteristics of the ancient array. It seems small in size, but it is actually highly integrated and the complexity inside is astonishingly large. After Long's analysis of the array, he found that this array has a strong soul-sealing effect, and many designs are specifically aimed at the dragon's body. So this is a prison specifically for imprisoning the dragon? Somehow, Long suddenly remembered the huge ghost dragon he saw in the depths of the Wukikayuan cave in the East China Sea. Chapter 550. End of the secret passage, wall sandwich. In the next few days, Long and Long Yu carefully explored the secret passage. The Dragon clan still did not send anyone to visit, or perhaps they sent someone but were blocked by the cunning clan. In the past, the two might have become anxious, but since they discovered the secret passage, they felt that this kind of undisturbed confinement life was not bad. At least they didn't have to worry about someone suddenly breaking in and finding that they were no longer in the room. According to the exploration in the past few days, the secret passage is obviously a huge and complex network structure, like a secret parasite that is unknown to the public, lurking in every dark corner of the Shenlong Tower, intertwined, quietly peeping. Moreover, from the structure of these secret passages connecting to the outside world, it is obvious that they are specially designed for eavesdropping. It can be imagined that if there is an intelligence team of more than 30 people stationed in this secret passage network, then everything that happens in the entire Shenlong Tower will be exposed to them. In the era of Emperor Yinglong, the Shenlong Tower was the residence, office and parliament of the great nobles and the Senate. Therefore, Long guessed that it was probably built by Emperor Yinglong without telling other demons for the purpose of collecting intelligence. Now the era of Jielong has passed, and the palace cabinet of Emperor Kuling has moved into the Shenlong Tower, but this secret passage has been sealed with the departure of the Jielong clan, so that there is no trace of human activity at all. No, someone has been here. Kunlun Mirror suddenly said, although the dust has been cleaned and disguised along the way, it still can't be hidden from my scan. The last time the other party came should be 4 to 7 days ago. Really? Long said cautiously, Jin, in the next exploration, remember to keep scanning the surrounding movements. If you notice someone passing through the distant passage, remember to notify me immediately. Got it. Kunlun Mirror responded seriously. After all, although the Kuling clan will guarantee the safety of Long and Long, what exactly is the identity of the stranger in this secret passage, and what attitude he holds towards the Kanglong clan, are all completely unknown huge risk points. He and Long continued to climb up along the secret passage. After secretly calculating the height, Long realized that he was in the middle of the Shenlong Tower. This floor has the largest library in the entire Donghuan realm, called Longyuan Pavilion. It was originally the place where the Jielong clan stored books. Now, in addition to the secrets of the Kuling clan, various other classics and scriptures are also included. Monster cultivators from all over the Donghuan realm, who are interested in studying unorthodox methods, will come to the Longyuan Pavilion of the Shenlong Tower to study and further their studies. If you can graduate from it, you will be qualified to serve as a guest official in any monster clan. In addition, more than 60% of the magic tools, elixirs and other cultivation resources in the Donghuan realm are produced by monster scholars who graduated from Longyuan Pavilion. Therefore, this place can be regarded as the Penglayu King Temple of the Monster Clan, and the academic atmosphere is very strong. Probably because there are people in Longyuan Pavilion all year round, the secret passage here is not only narrow and hidden, but also close to the load-bearing columns in the hall, and there are no peepholes or sound-permeable panels designed around it. Long had to put his ear against the wall to vaguely hear the conversation outside. We need to hurry up with the blood test project. The higher-ups have asked about it several times. The deadline is the end of this month. You don't want the project team's funding to be cut, do you? The dean said that the slowest person in the team will be expelled this month. Be prepared. Hearing this, Long felt very sympathetic. This last-place elimination system is also used in academia. Has the evil capitalism infiltrated the Eastern Empire realm? Long asked in a low voice, why do you want to expel him? This, Long thought for a moment and then explained to Longu. Although Longyuan Pavilion is nominally a neutral academic institution, since it is located in the imperial capital, it must be controlled and influenced by the Kuling clan. In fact, it is said that more than 70% of Longyuan Pavilion's funding is provided by the Kuling clan. Correspondingly, if the Kuling clan has any development needs, Wenyuan Pavilion must also take over and complete them as soon as possible, otherwise it may affect the subsequent funding. The intentional elimination of the worst performing member was to encourage everyone to compete spontaneously and work overtime to conduct research. Dragon Fox was amazed. In her opinion, the cultivators was the root of everything. To eliminate the cultivators for a certain project was not an act of missing the point. Long Long did not intend to explain to her what consumables were. The little fox had not yet reached the stage where she needed to learn the mind of an emperor. The two continued to climb the ladder until they entered the upper range of the Shenlong Tower. The air here was obviously fresher than in the middle and bottom parts. It was obvious that the ventilation vents of the secret passage network were nearby. Dragon Fox ran around in the direction of the airflow, and sure enough, at the end of a certain passage, he found the so-called ventilation duct and a side hole on the outer wall of the Shenlong Tower. Since flying was prohibited in the entire imperial capital, this hole could not be seen from above, and there were just a few protruding eaves below to block it. It could be said that the design was extremely ingenious. The hole is in the shape of a trumpet, and the wind speed at this height is extremely fast. A lot of fresh air is poured in from the trumpet hole every moment. What's even more amazing is that these air currents run and collide in the passage without making any sound. Long Long carefully studied the inner wall of the ventilation duct, thinking, isn't this the Trislavite structure? I thought it was some kind of formation. The two left the ventilation duct and continued to climb up along the vertical corridor. If the height is calculated correctly, the end of this secret passage network at the highest level should be the residence of the royal family. Thinking of this, Long Long also frowned. If the secret passage network also guarantees the surveillance of the royal family, it can be said to be impeccable. If my father-in-law had not rashly failed in the expedition to the human world, he might really be able to rule the Eastern Empire realm for thousands of years. The two finally climbed to the end and came to a secret room. Rather than a secret room, it is better to say that it is a narrow mezzanine between the walls. The back of the head is against the wall, and the nose is almost rubbing against the wall in front. Long felt uncomfortable being squeezed, and was about to speak, when Long Long suddenly made a quick eye contact with her. Then, a rough, angry, and hateful hoarse voice came from outside. You bitch. Long subconsciously held her breath for a moment, because she heard heavy footsteps entering the bedroom from outside the door. Qiwan, the patriarch of the Cunning clan and the king of all the monsters. Long Long quietly reached out and gently held Long Yu's hand, signaling her not to act rashly. It is unknown how soundproof the interlayer of the bedroom wall is, but the hearing of the monsters is mostly sharp, especially those with high cultivation. If the sound of climbing the ladder is heard by him, it will be bad. The safest way is to stay here quietly, motionless, and even hold your breath to ensure that no sound is made. After the Emperor falls asleep or leaves, the two will be alert and quietly return the same way. Long Long was thinking nervously and quickly, but heard the sound of a woman sobbing from outside. If my guess is correct, this person should be the marriage partner of Qiwan and the White Tiger clan, the queen named Lu Yu. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.